The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the following program. I'm your host, Joe Nierman, aka Good LAWGIC. It's time for us to get to a debate. We're going to see Vivek Ramaswamy against Desantis against Nikki Haley versus Christie. So they can sit there figuring out which of them is the choiciest of the non-Trumps. Who's the choiciest of the non-Trumps? We need to know. This is something every American needs to know. Who's the choiciest? All right. Wish we watch this. I have some decisions to make. Oh, watch GOP debate. Wish we watch this. My all access pass. All right. This is returning here for post-debate analysis. What? That's not good. That's not good. You suck. Let's see live. YouTube needs to sort things. Not Pac-Man. No, God, no, not Pac-Man. I won't shut up. Not Pac-Man. This looks like it might be good. Oh, God, Pac-Man, David Pac-Man. God help me, the guy doesn't stop talking. Whew. Republican debate live, 4th presidential. Trump skips again, U.S. election live. Times now, 3.9 million subscribers. I think this is going to be it. I think this will host it. This is them live. Any of you have any thoughts on it? If you have thoughts on a better place for me to like check in on this, I am all ears. I am all ears. All ears. This is live. What we're seeing here is this little screen. See, it says live. That means it's live. Things are live. Republican debate live. 4th Republican presidential debate. Trump skips again. We're not bitter. I'm not boomering anything, Chugi. I'm not boomering anything. You're saying it's on Rumble? Let me check Rumble. That's what Rumble's telling me it's on Rumble. Let me see. We'll do Rumble. GOP debate live. Along with commentary. I want your commentary. Is this it? It's 7 days ago. Is this now? I said 7 days ago. 6 hours ago? 3 months ago? Fourth. Laura Loomer live at GOP 4th presidential debate. I don't want to watch Laura Loomer. God. All right. Let's get rid of this for now. Let's hide this for a moment. I'll do a little search here. I still have that thing playing, so if it starts up there, which you would think it would, it should be good. Then we're gonna hit. Where can I watch the debate? Watch debate live. University of Alabama. Jeez, give me a link. On Facebook? I want to watch it. Oh my God, it's actually started. What the hell is this? What the hell is that? People suck.
You've got to be willing to stand strong, and you've got to be willing to beat these people. I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue. We beat the teachers' unions when we did school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat George Soros when we removed 2 of his radical district attorneys. We beat the Democrats on election integrity. I have delivered results. That's what we need for this country. And you have other candidates.
You can't come within 20% of Trump.
She caves anytime the left comes after her, anytime the media comes after her. I did a bill in Florida to stop the gender mutilation of minors. It's child abuse and it's wrong. She opposes that bill. She thinks it's fine and the law shouldn't get involved with it. If you're not willing to stand up for the kids, if you're not willing to stand up and say that it is wrong to mutilate these kids, then you're not going to fight for the people back home. I will fight for you and I will win for you.
Ambassador Haley, you left government service in 2018 with just $100,000 in the bank. 5 years later, you're reportedly worth $8 million, thanks to lucrative corporate speeches and board memberships like you had with Boeing.
Did I miss their opening statement?
Weeks ago, you met with Wall Street heavyweights, including leaders from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock. Several other billionaire investors are reportedly ready to endorse you, or recently have, all of which comes with expectations. Aren't you too tight with the banks and the billionaires to win over the GOP's working class base, which mostly wants to break the system, not elect someone beholden to it?
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. You know, first I'll tell you, just to respond to Ron, he continues to lie about my record. I actually said his Don't Say Gay bill didn't go far enough because it only talked about gender until the 3rd grade. And I said it shouldn't be done at all, that's for parents to talk about. It shouldn't be talked about with schools. In reference to donors coming on board, look, we will take support from anybody we can take support from, but I have been a conservative fighter all my life. I was a Tea Party candidate when I became governor. We opposed every single corporate bailout we possibly could. We passed tort reform. We passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country. We passed pro-life bills. We moved in unemployment from 11% to 3%. We took on the unions and we took on Obama when it came to the unions, the Syrian refugees, and everything in between. And so I've had a fight. And so as much as Ron says that, that's not true. But when it comes to these corporate people that want to suddenly support us, we'll take it. But I don't ask them what their policies are. They ask me what my policies are. And I tell them what it is. Sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I am on China. Some don't like the fact that I've signed pro-life bills. Some don't like the fact that I may oppose corporate bailouts. That doesn't matter. That's who I am. And that's why the most conservative grassroots group in the country, Americans for Prosperity, endorsed me last week.
Well, because
these idiots clapping.
He didn't respond to the criticism. It wasn't about the Parents' Rights and Education bill. It was about prohibiting sex change operations on minors. They do puberty blockers. These are irreversible. Talk to Chloe Cole. She went through this. Now she's an adult. She's warning against it. She may never be able to have kids again. That is what Nikki Haley opposed. She said the law shouldn't get involved in that. And I just ask you, if you're somebody that's going to be the president of the United States and you can't stand up against child abuse, how are you going to be able to stand up for anything? That is the truth. We have it on video.
I said that if you have to be 18 to get a tattoo, you should have to be 18 to have anything done to change your gender.
You said the law should stay out of it.
We're gonna get to this in more detail later. Let's finish with electability, but trust me, we're coming back to this issue. Mr. Ramaswamy, for months you campaigned as a unifier. Then you stood up at the first debate and attacked all of your competitors as bought and paid for. The second debate, you changed your tune, saying these are good people on this stage, admitting you can come across as a bit of a know-it-all and rejecting the practice of personal insults. By debate number 3, you called Nikki Haley corrupt, accused Ron Desantis of wearing high heels, and told Ambassador Haley she should keep a closer eye on her daughter. Can you see how this has led some to conclude you are not, in fact, a unifier, and to question your authenticity?
Megyn, I think there's a time and place for everything. We need somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time. And I'll say that jokingly. Ron DeSantis is a good person, too. I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is. And now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, not the Democratic establishment. Now you have Reid Hoffman, the person who's effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discovered this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world, now supporting Nikki Haley. And to say that doesn't affect her is false, because it's after that meeting later that day that she says that every American needs to be doxxed by having their ID, their government-issued ID, tied to what they say on the internet. So I think that this is far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside with fresh legs from the next generation to unite this country, not the broken politicians who are puppets of the puppet masters, but the actual people in this country.
Great answer.
Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. I think it's going to take somebody whose best days in life are still ahead to see a country whose best days are ahead of itself. And I think I can reach that next generation better than anybody else in this race.
Thank you. Response.
Megyn. First of all, we weren't bankrupt when I left the UN. We're people of service. My husband is in the military, and I served our country as UN ambassador and governor. It may be bankrupt to him, but it certainly wasn't bankrupt to us. Secondly, I did serve on the board of Boeing. I did a lot of work with Boeing when I was governor. They were a great partner to me. I served for 10 months. And then when they decided after COVID that they wanted to go for a corporate bailout, I've never supported corporate bailout, so I respectfully stepped back and got off the board. I love Boeing. They build good commercial airplanes. They build airplanes for our Air Force. I am proud of them. They employ a lot of people in South Carolina. But that's why I left the Boeing board. There's nothing to what he's saying. And in terms of these donors that are supporting me, they're just jealous. They wish that they were supporting them. But I'm not going to sit there and
he wrote a book talking about ESG and these woke corporations and BlackRock. The idea that I want to do that in Florida, they were managing our part of our pension. And then when they did the ESG, I took $2 billion away from BlackRock. We took action. This ESG, they call it environment, social governance. And again, Nikki is meeting with all these people. They want to use economic power to impose a left-wing agenda on this country. They want basically to change society without having to go through the constitutional process. We've kneecapped it in the state of Florida. The next president of the United States needs to be able to go to that office on day one and end ESG. And the fact of the matter is, we know from her history, Nikki will cave to those big donors when it counts. And that is not acceptable.
I did write that book, Ron. And the irony is Nikki Haley was heaping praise on me when I wrote that book. But now I worry. I was warning about the woke industrial complex in this country as a warning. Apparently, she read it as a how-to manual, just like she reads George Orwell's books as well. And so I think that that's actually far more dangerous than this is really important for people to understand. We're marching towards fascism under Biden. Jack Smith has subpoenaed every last retweet that someone has issued from Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom. That is fascism. And she should come nowhere near the levers of power, let alone the White House.
I've got to get to Governor Christie. I haven't forgotten
about you, sir. No, but can I just say,
can you speak to,
I really appreciate
how
that.
you doing, sir?
Good to see you.
Can you please speak to the requirement that you said that every anonymous internet user needs to out themselves? They're both hitting you on it.
I would be happy to, and I love all the attention, fellas. Thank you for that. I'll say this. What I said was that social media companies need to show us their algorithms. I also said there are millions of bots on social media right now. They're foreign, they're Chinese, they're Iranian. I will always fight for freedom of speech for Americans. We do not need freedom of speech for Russians and Iranians and Hamas. We need social media companies to go and fight back on all of these bots that are happening. That's what I said. As a mom, do I think that social media would be more civil if we went and had people's names next to that? Yes, I do think that, because I think we've got too much cyberbullying. I think we've got child pornography and all of those things. But having said that, I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
She said, I want your name.
She
as president of the United States, her first day in office, she said, one of the first things I'm going to do.
I said we were going to get the millions of bots.
She wants government ID to dox every American.
That's what she said. You can roll the tape. She said, I want your name. And that was going to be one of the first things she did in office. And then she got real serious blowback, and understandably so, because it'd be a massive expansion of government. We have anonymous speech. The Federalist Papers were written with anonymous writers. Jay, Madison, and Hamilton, they went under Publius. It's something that's important, and especially given how conservatives have been attacked and they've lost jobs and they've been canceled. You know the regime would use that to weaponize that against our own people. It was a bad idea, and she should own up to it. Come on now, what are you doing here?
15 seconds, and then there is the governor, former governor of New Jersey.
This cracks me up because Ron is so hypocritical, because he actually went and tried to push a law that would stop anonymous people from talking to the press, and went so far to say bloggers should have to register with the state if they're going to write about elected officials. It was in the, check your newspaper. It was absolutely there. I have never said government should
trample on your constitutional rights.
You can come back to it later.
This is more dangerous than the Democrats.
You're lying.
This section's over. Okay. Governor Christie.
Really?
That's how Democrats argue.
I'm usually not somebody who gets missed, but okay, let's go.
What's happening? Okay, I got you. Listen, you endorsed Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. You gave him an A for his first term. Since then, however, you've turned on him, calling him a liar, a loser, a con man, and someone who cannot win.
He rejected me.
You've even said that you got into this race just to stop President Trump.
How's that working?
His approval rating with Republicans is currently at 81%. Yours is at 25%.
Because he's a failure.
Your best state is New Hampshire, and even there, 2/3 of GOP voters say they would be angry and disappointed if you won.
Nice.
Respectfully, Governor, you have not stopped
Why
Mr.
are you
Trump.
still here?
And voters may wonder how you could possibly become the nominee of a party
still be on the
that
stage,
does not appear to like
and
you
how
very
the stage
much.
supports your
Well,
weight.
look, Megyn, it's often very difficult to be the only person on the stage who's telling the truth, and the only person who is taking on what needs to be taken on. I look at my watch now. We're 17 minutes into this debate, and except for your little speech in the beginning, we've had these three acting as if the race is between the four of us. The fifth guy, who doesn't have the guts to show up and stand here, he's the one who, as you just put it, is way ahead in the polls.
Yep.
And yet I've got these three guys who are all seemingly to compete with, Voldemort, he who shall not be named. They don't want to talk about it. The fact is that when you go and you say the truth about somebody who is a dictator, a bully, who has taken shots at everybody, whether they've given him great service or not over time, who dares to disagree with him.
Christie's the man who demands
then I
great
understand
service.
why these three are timid to say anything about it. Maybe it's because they have future aspirations. Maybe those future aspirations are now, or maybe they're 4 years from now. But the fact of the matter is the truth needs to be told. And for us to go 17 minutes without discussing the guy who has all those gaudy numbers you talked about is ridiculous. I'm in this race because the truth needs to be spoken. He is unfit. This is a guy who just said this past week that he wants to use the Department of Justice to go after his enemies when he gets in there.
You're like the least
and the fact of the matter is, he is unfit to be president, and there is no bigger issue in this race, Megyn, than Donald Trump, and those numbers prove it.
You're a disgrace.
Governor Christie, we will be addressing that issue of Donald Trump in just a moment, but I'd like to first get to some questions.
It wouldn't be
on
any more of a
Israel.
disgrace if he was wearing
Governor
a muumuu.
Desantis, tonight as we speak, the war is back on in Gaza. Israeli tanks are on the move and have surrounded the home of the leader of Hamas. 8 Americans have been held hostage in the tunnels beneath Gaza for 60 days now. American troops and warships in the Middle East are under attack. How far would you go as president to secure the release of those 8 American hostages? And would it include sending American forces into combat?
we have to look out for our people. When there are hostages, Commander-in-Chief, you have to do whatever you can to get them done. But the overall issue with this is this administration is trying to hobble Israel from being able to defend itself. They have a right to eliminate Hamas and win a total and complete victory so that they never have to deal with this again. Hamas wants nothing less than a second Holocaust. They would wipe off every single Jew off the map. They would destroy the state of Israel if we could. Joe Biden will say they support Israel, and then they do nothing but try to kneecap them every step of the way. You should not try to direct their war effort. We should work together with them so that they can bring Hamas to heel. Look, I served in Iraq back in the day. I'm the only one running for president that served in the military. I understand that part of the world.
We'll be over here.
It's not the best part of the world. We do have troops there that Biden is leaving basically as sitting ducks. And you have the Iranians that are attacking these troops, and he's responding with basically pinpricks. If you harm an American service member, you're going to have hell to pay when I'm president. We are not going to let our troops be sitting ducks. We also need to look at what's the underlying problem here. Iran. Biden is doing nothing to bring Iran to account. You got to turn the screws on them. Don't let them have any oil revenue. The money they get, they send to Hamas, they send to Hezbollah, and they foment jihad throughout the Middle East. So Biden has empowered Iran just like he's empowered other adversaries. We stand with Israel. They're our best ally in the Middle East. We have a unique relationship with them, and you will see a strong relationship when I'm the president of the United States.
But would you send American troops?
Look, this is the problem with the first three debates.
Trump.
Ron gets asked a question, and he doesn't answer it.
Trump.
Your question was very specific. You said, would you send American troops as commander-in-chief? And he went on to this minute and 30-second hosanna about his knowledge of the military and what we need to do, and didn't answer your question. Look, when you're president of the United States, you're not going to have a choice whether to answer that question or not. Your generals, your Secretary of Defense, your Secretary of State, your National Security Advisor are going to present plans to you. They're going to look at you and say, do we go or don't we, Mr. President? And you can't give a 90-second speech about your military services.
So would you send American troops in to rescue those hostages?
Absolutely. If they had a plan which showed me that we could get them out safely, you're damn right I'd send the American Army in there to get our people home and get them home now. And I'll answer that question directly.
Thank you, Governor Christie.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have said it was irresponsible for Ambassador Haley to call Hamas's terrorist rampage an attack on America and for her to, quote, rabidly shout, finish them, end quote. The Hamas terror attack left dozens of Americans dead and was the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Why wouldn't it be a good thing to finish Hamas?
Finish them was purposefully vague in a discussion that included Iran, which is what I objected to. And I think it's, as U.S. president, you have to be responsible. What happened to Israel was dead wrong. What Hamas did was medieval. It was subhuman. It was immoral. And we have to call that out for what it is on October 7th. But to say that that was an attack on America fails a basic test. I mean, Nick, if you can't tell the difference between where Israel is and the U.S. is on a map, I can have my 3-year-old son show you the difference.
He's right.
That is irresponsible because it has major consequences, because that doesn't leave room for what actually is an attack on America. So I believe I have the strongest pro-Israel position actually on the stage, even though it's a little bit different than the standard GOP talking points. And it is this. The founding vision of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, the George Washington figure of Israel, what did he believe? He believed that we don't want, as Israel, to depend on the fleeting sympathies of the West and have our hands tied.
I agree with that.
I think Israel has an absolute right to defend itself to the fullest, without the U.S., the UN, or the EU, or anybody else second-guessing their decisions, as the Biden administration, guess what, is now starting to do. I think that's a more deeply pro-Israel position than anybody else, and it keeps the actual 100%. Lines of accountability clear, because it is a pro-American position. And as leader of the United States of America, just as a father of 2 sons, my sole moral duty is to my family. As your next president, my sole moral duty is to you, the people of this country. That's how I'm going to lead. So I'll tell Bibi, you smoke the terrorists on your southern border, you go ahead and we're rooting for you. We're going to smoke the terrorists on our own southern border, and that's how I'm going to lead this country.
But Americans were killed in that attack. Americans were killed in that attack. And so if you looked at this terrorist attack and the number of Americans, this would be one of the top 10 terrorist attacks in American history. So our own people were killed in that attack. And I think it's absolutely appropriate to point that out and to say that we're in this together. And we are going to work with Israel so that these people are brought to justice.
I agree with that.
Ambassador Haley, I'm coming to you. Iran is on the threshold of becoming a nuclear state.
Kill them all.
The Wall Street Journal reported that Iranian military leaders gave the green light for Hamas's attack on Israel. You said in last month's debate that, by contrast to the Biden administration's approach to Iran, you would, quote, punch them once and punch them hard. Were you saying that it's time to bomb Iran?
No, I was not saying it's time to bomb Iran, but I will tell you, I dealt with Iran every day when I was at the United Nations, and they only respond to strength. What they don't respond to is when you weaken the sanctions like they did on Iran that allowed China to send them billions to fill their proxies. What they don't respond to is when you give $6 billion for 5 hostages. That only makes them want more hostages. What they don't respond to is when they do 140 strikes on our men and women in Syria and Iraq, and we do nothing but just some small shots back. You've got to punch them. You've got to punch them hard and let them know that. That's the only way they're going to respond. So the way you do that is you go after their infrastructure in Syria and Iraq where they're hitting our soldiers. That's what you do. And then that's when they'll back off. The problem is you have to see that all of these are related. If you look at the fact Russia was losing that war with Ukraine. Putin had hit rock bottom. They had raised the draft age to 65. He was getting drones and missiles, drones from Iran, missiles from North Korea. And so what happened? When he hit rock bottom, all of a sudden, his other friend, Iran, Hamas goes and invades Israel and butchers those people on Putin's birthday. There is no one happier right now than Putin because all of the attention America had on Ukraine suddenly went to Israel. And that's what they were hoping is going to happen. We need to make sure that we have full clarity that there is a reason, again, that Taiwanese want to help Ukrainians because they know if Ukraine wins, China won't invade Taiwan. There's a reason the Ukrainians want to help Israelis because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins. These are all connected. But what wins all of that is a strong America, not a weak America. And that's what Joe Biden's given us.
I want to say one thing about the tie to Ukraine, if I may. So foreign policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it.
He is punching her.
This myth that
Where's
they've been
where all
selling
the
you that
seals
somebody had a cup of
clapping?
coffee
Where are the
stint at the
seals
UN
clapping
and
now?
makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's a puppet masters right there. The donors right there that are playing about the puppet masters.
Hold on.
Let me just say something here. You know, his reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen. Promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's no
That's
reasonable.
not my deal. That's not my deal.
Yes, it's exactly what you
I'll
said.
describe
You
my
do
deal
this
to
at
you.
every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't interrupt me. I didn't
the deal is.
interrupt you. Okay? You
Tell
say
them
this.
about how you
You
want to send
do
those
this.
kids to die.
You
Go
do
for
this
it.
at every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to say what?
Exactly what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
Well, this is
now look.
This is nonsense. This man is spewing. This man is spewing nonsense.
This is the 4th debate. The 4th debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America.
Seriously.
So shut up for a little while.
I'm going to respond to that.
I want to say
Your
something.
version
No,
of
We're going to
I
let you
want to say-
respond to that. We're going to let you respond to that.
I'll
Let
take
him
that.
finish.
I want to say something else. We're now 25 minutes into this debate,
And you haven't said
and
anything.
he has insulted Nikki Haley's basic intelligence.
Yes.
Not her positions, her basic
her
intelligence.
corruption. No,
she doesn't
he's
know
insulted her
regions. She
corruption,
wouldn't be able
and
to
she doesn't
find
know the
something on a
region.
map that his 3-year-old
Yeah.
could find.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
If you want to disagree on issues, that's fine. And Nikki and I disagree on some issues. But I'll tell you this, I've known her for 12 years, which is longer than he's even started to vote in a Republican primary. And while we disagree about some issues and we disagree about who should be president of the United States, what we don't disagree on is this is a smart, accomplished woman, and you should stop insulting her.
So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take several times over. So first of all, I think we just learned something from Chris Christie. We learned three things.
How humiliating.
We learned three things right there. First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what provinces in eastern Ukraine he actually wants us to fight for. Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York. So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race. When it comes to Nikki, I think if you're going to actually send your sons and daughters to go die in somebody else's war, you better, excuse me, Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
You had your chance, and
we're going to be done. So listen up to this. If these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it for a year. $200 billion of our taxpayer money sent over. Neither of them could even name for you the provinces that they actually want to protect. And this is the people who have been touting their so-called foreign policy experience. It is intellectual fraud. These people are lying to you, the same people who told you about weapons and mass destruction in Iraq to justify that invasion, didn't know the first thing about it, yet they sent thousands of our sons and daughters to go die. The same people who told you the same in Afghanistan, where the Taliban is still in charge 20 years later. $7 trillion of our national debt due to these toxic neocons. You can put lipstick on a Dick Cheney, it is still a fascist neocon.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
See that today.
Thank you, Mr.
It's Dick Cheney all over again in this party.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. 15 seconds.
Name the provinces. Neither of you could even name the provinces.
Let me just.
It's actually Crimea is the wrong answer.
All right. The floor is Christie's.
All right. Let me just say this.
Now she's came up with three.
This is the kind of thing where he talks about experience. I was the U.S. attorney in New Jersey when the terrorist attacks were launched against the United States in 2001. I brought the first two cases in this country against terrorists who tried to attack us again.
What the hell's that do with
and I know about the threat of terrorism and bullying in this country and around the world. And at that time, he was learning about the provinces in Ukraine, sitting with his smart-ass mouth at Harvard. That's what was going on. And so the fact of the matter is, and back then he was a Democrat. So, the fact is that all he knows how to do.
You're busy hugging Barack Obama.
Thank you.
All he knows how to do is insult good people who have committed their lives to public service and not say anything that moves the ball down the field for the United States.
All right, thank you, Governor Christie. We are going to take a quick break, cool things down a little bit. When we come back, we're going to tackle issues on the southern border.
Wow.
We'll be back in a few minutes.
I don't care who that audience is clapping for. They can pack that audience with whatever bunch of idiot neocon morons they want. I got to tell you something. He is destroying.
Santa's coming soon.
Oh, Lord, stop that.
Have you finished your Christmas shopping?
We'll come back to that. I'm going to see if I can find another source for this. I feel disappointed that I missed the openings for when these four first said their things. Yeah, Vivek came out firing, and I don't care who they pat this audience with. He's dominated. He's dominated Nikki, and he needed to because she's been kicking him around. She's been kicking him around for 3 debates now, at least the last 2. So I'm very disappointed in this channel here. I want to see if I can find it anywhere. I'm watching it on Facebook right now currently, but wow. No, let me get to a couple of these here for also. This is the one I want to. Nikki needs to sunset herself. She needs to go away. She needs to get out of politics. Oh man, my little horn thing isn't working. I forgot to take care of that. Go Vivek, long live Tamriel. Scrolls have told these tales. If you don't understand, look up the Elder Scrolls. Bethesda was prophetic. All right. Next. Accept these terms. Next. All right. El got it. Oh my God. Yes. Sorry, having a little problem there. Let me pull this up. I'm trying to find a better version. I don't really love this version that I have of this thing. Oh, there it goes. Okay. There it is. Finally. Gosh. All right. Yes, I don't really love this version that I have. I wanted to find a better one while I'm here. We're watching Four Losers because it's entertaining. Hello. And it also is interesting conversation with respect to, like, you know, what do you do with the whole 8 Americans, the Americans there? Like, I don't think that, I don't like the idea of engaging. I don't like the idea of engaging on behalf of some ally of ours. That bothers me. But, like, I mean, just put Israel aside for a second. If there were 8 hostages who were taken in the Sudan, I would say America should go in. So it doesn't matter who. I mean, that's, you know, should make sure that they basically terrify. And here's the thing that I was trying to express with respect to Nikki Haley. She says you need to give a punch. You don't need to give a punch. You need to display strength. You don't need to flex strength. Those are two different things. Usually the strongest kid in a class rarely gets into a fight because everyone is just scared of them. That's how you handle it effectively on a political stage also. You can scare far, you know,
discover America's independent voice.
You can scare foreign hostiles. You don't need to go in there and actually throw a punch. That's how Trump was so effective in his foreign policy. That he scared the life out of them, so that none of them were going to do anything because they're terrified as to how he was going to react. And that's far more effective than actually sending troops. But none of them seem to learn from him. Maybe Vivek did, but the other guys certainly didn't. You know, when we had hostages in 1979, when American hostages were taken by Iran, the day that Reagan got sworn in, they were released. What did he do? What did Reagan do? For a year, they were holding these hostages. 444 days, they held these hostages. Why were they released? Because of fear. Not because we flexed our muscles, but because they knew that he was not that he was not Jimmy Carter. That's how you have effective foreign policy. But Nikki Haley doesn't understand that. She just understands, we've got to punch him. We got to go to war with everyone. All right, let's see what we got going. I'm still on the same.
Welcome back to the Republican primary debate live on News Nation from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We are now going to go to the crisis on the southern border. Polls show immigration and the crisis are among the most pressing issues for Republican voters right now, both the issue of migrants crossing illegally into our country and the separate issue of fentanyl being smuggled in mostly through legal ports of entry. All year, News Nation has been at the border documenting the crisis. In 2023 alone, Border Patrol encountered a record 2.4 million migrants. All 4 of you have talked tough. The question now is, how realistic is the talk? So, Governor Desantis, I'd like to start with you. You have pledged to send the military to the southern border on day 1 of your administration with orders to shoot, quote, stone cold dead anyone illegally entering with a backpack that you believe contains fentanyl. Critics have called this a shoot first, ask questions later policy that would amount to extrajudicial killing. You are a former military lawyer. Why do you think this idea of yours would be legal?
The drug cartels are invading our country and they are killing our citizens by the tens of thousands every year. We had a situation in Florida. There was an 18-month-old baby that was crawling on the floor of an Airbnb rental. There was fentanyl residue on the carpet and the baby died. Is this acceptable in this country? I know the elites in DC, they don't care. They don't care that fentanyl is ravaging your community. They don't care that illegal aliens are ravaging our community and overwhelming our community. The commander-in-chief not only has a right, you have a responsibility to fight back against these people.
And does that mean shooting first?
It means you're gonna
oh no,
categorize them as foreign terrorist organizations.
Good golly.
And we will identify, just like we would anywhere. When I was in Iraq, the Al-Qaeda wasn't wearing a uniform. You'd see anyone walking down the street, they all had man dresses on. You didn't know if someone had a bomb, an IED attached or not. And so you had to make a judgment based on intelligence, based on positive identification. But we're going to be able to get the intelligence on these cartel people. And here's the thing. If we had a wall across the southern border, which I support, this would not have happened. We need to build a wall across the southern border. I'll get it done, and Mexico is supposed to pay for it. Remember, here's how you do that. I am going to have fees on remittances from foreign workers when they send the money back to foreign countries. We're going to tax it, and we're going to build the wall with that. So yes, you should have had that, but we don't have it. I'm going to build it, but we have to lean in on this problem. I am not going to sit there and allow mothers to lose more kids because of fentanyl overdose. I am not going to sit there and let sex trafficking go unabated or human trafficking go unabated. There's going to be a new sheriff in town, and these drug cartels better buckle up.
It sounds like he's reading it. Even things that are coming through his brain, it sounds like he's reading it.
You have pledged to catch and deport all migrants who are here in this country illegally. But then you said in Londonderry, New Hampshire last month that you will not deport those who are working and paying taxes rather than feeding off the system. Which is it?
So first of all, what I said is all of the 7 or 8 million illegals that have come under Biden's watch absolutely have to go back. We have to stop the incentive of what's bringing them over here in the first place. Biden just gave temporary protective status to 500,000 Venezuelans. That's 500,000 Social Security cards. That's 500,000 driver's licenses. And I know from my time at the United Nations, the first thing they do is pick up the phone and said, we came over, come on over. And that's what sends more. You have to go and deport these people so they know it can't happen again. For those that have been here longer than that, we've got to start seeing who is it, how long have they been here, have they been vetted, have they paid taxes, have they been working, and figure out who else is out there. But what I know is my parents came here legally. They put in the time, they put in the price. They are offended by those that are coming illegally. We can't let them skip the line. But when you talk about fentanyl like you did before, let's look at something else. Yes, I think we should send special operations over and take out the cartels. I think we should do a remain in Mexico policy so they never step foot in U.S. soil in the first place. But look at where fentanyl came from. Let's go to the heart of the matter. It came from China. That's why we need to end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. I promise you, they need our economy. They will immediately stop that. But this is where Trump went wrong. Trump was good on trade, but that's all he was with China, because here he allowed fentanyl to continue to come over. He continued to allow them to he would give them technology that would build up their military and hurt us. He allowed the Chinese infiltration for them to buy up farmland, to put money in our universities, and to continue to do things that were harmful for America. We now have a spy base in Cuba and police stations, and Trump didn't do anything about it.
Thank you. China, though, I mean, listen, this is rich, because when she was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 ranked governor of bringing the CCP into her state. She wrote a love letter to the Chinese ambassador.
Yeah, I'm switching over. I found a better stream that I like better. Thank you, Prospering Woman.
We've got to start seeing who is it, how long have they been here, have they been vetted, have they paid taxes, have they been working, and figure out who else is out there. But what I know is my parents came here legally. They put in the time, they put in the price. They are offended by those that are coming illegally. We can't let them skip the line. But when you talk about fentanyl like you did before, let's look at something else. Yes, I think we should send special operations over and take out the cartels. I think we should do a remain in Mexico policy so they never step foot in U.S. soil in the first place. But look at where fentanyl came from. Let's go to the heart of the matter. It came from China. That's why we need to end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. I promise you, they need our economy. They will immediately stop that. But this is where Trump went wrong. Trump was good on trade, but that's all he was with China, because here he allowed fentanyl to continue to come over. He continued to allow them to he would give them technology that would build up their military and hurt us. He allowed the Chinese infiltration for them to buy up farmland, to put money in our universities, and to continue to do things that were harmful for America. We now have a spy base in Cuba and police stations, and Trump didn't do anything about it.
Her China, though, I mean, this is rich, because when she was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 ranked governor of bringing the CCP into her state. She wrote a love letter to the Chinese ambassador saying how great a friend China is. You can look at it. We put it on our website, rondesantis.com. There's also a video of her as governor standing in front of a Chinese flag with a Chinese business saying that she now works for them, talking about this Chinese company. So she's been very weak on China. Now, here's the problem. The rhetoric is different, but her donors, these Wall Street liberal donors, they make money in China. They are not going to let her be tough on China, and she will cave to the donors. She will not stand up for you.
15 seconds, Ambassador.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him, and now they support me. The second thing is he has a company, a Chinese company, UGAS, that he just did a rally there last year. They have given you $340,000 in campaign donations between them and their employees. They are tied to the Communist Chinese Party. Jinko Solar is another one. They went and expanded. You gave $2 million in subsidies.
I banned China from buying land in the state of Florida.
The Department of Homeland
ejected the Confucius Institute. Nikki Haley brought Confucius Institutes to the universities in South Carolina.
That is not true.
I ejected them. So I have a record of standing up and do what's right. And here's the thing.
You have a record of lying.
She's trying to say things like that. Even the liberal media groups that usually, if I say the sky is blue, they'll fact check me and say that's wrong. They looked at her charges. They said it was totally false, that they could not find one instance of me recruiting a Chinese business coming to Florida. You know why? Because we never recruited any Chinese businesses to the state of Florida.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy, over the past year, fentanyl has killed more than 75,000 Americans, 1,000 of them right here in Alabama. You have vowed to use the military to, quote, annihilate drug labs inside Mexico, something the president of Mexico said would be a hostile act. But fentanyl can easily be made anywhere, and labs that are shut down can easily and quickly be replaced. Are your tough enforcement policies offering false hope to a country racked by addiction?
To the contrary, I don't think it's going to have to come to that if we deal with the actual demand side problem that we also have in this country. I mean, the easy part is talking about how we're going to use our military to secure the border. I will, and I believe that everybody else wants to do the same thing. But the harder part is dealing with the crisis of purpose and meaning, the mental health epidemic raging across this country like wildfire. And there's a reason why after the opioid crisis, you see fentanyl. And even after we get fentanyl, and we are going to be sure to make sure we do it, this one is worse for many reasons. They're illegally lacing it into pharmaceuticals, so it's more dangerous. But we're deluding ourselves. The real false promise here is thinking that we're going to have dealt with that underlying mental health epidemic in this country by just dealing with the demand side of it. But I want to get back to this issue of the root cause, because a lot of these are coming from labs in Wuhan, China, of all places. Drug materials that are going to the Mexican drug cartels that they're pumping across that southern border like a modern opium war. I think it is going to take a U.S. president that's going to have a very different conversation with Xi Jinping than what Joe Biden just had in California. I will tell Xi Jinping, you will not only not buy land in this country or donate to universities in this country. U.S. businesses won't expand into the Chinese market until they're playing by the same set of rules. And the same country that's putting fentanyl into illegal pharmaceuticals in Mexico, it's no coincidence, is the exact same country that also unleashed hell on the world with the COVID-19 pandemic. We also have to hold them accountable with every financial lever that we have available. That is what it actually means to stand with a spine. And you mark my words, if we're willing to stand with the spine, China will absolutely have to fold because they're in a tougher spot than we are. And then we're back to playing by the same set of rules.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Thank you. Let's talk about the economy. Ambassador Haley.
Why is there an audience there?
Homeownership has always been part of the American dream, but it's increasingly out of reach for younger Americans. This year, mortgage rates reached 30-year highs. Home prices have risen $190,000 over the past decade. Is this the free market at work? Or should the federal government do something to make homes more affordable?
God, no.
Well, first of all, I mean, you're exactly right. My daughter just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. Right now, the average homeowner in America is
Nobody buys
49
a
years
home right
old.
when they get married.
You've got young people everywhere. That used to
Nobody
be
buys
the
a home
American
right when they
dream,
get
and
married.
now it's out of reach.
Your
But
rich
you look
kids
at what
do.
happened. You first of all look at what the Fed did. The Fed did a terrible job when they allowed all of that money to go through. You saw the Treasury bond rates go up. That affected mortgage rates, that affected automobile rates, that affected insurance rates. And so now we have a high interest rate. You've got a supply issue. Ask any builder. The supply issues have continued to be there. That's caused the rate to go up. And then you've got insurances that have gone up. And so what you have is a lot of younger people who, one, can't afford a home, but two, the banks aren't lending them any money. They've made the regulations so hard that they don't want to give loans on mortgages anymore.
God.
So what we have to do is we have to open it up. We have to, one, grow our economy so that people have more money in their pockets. We've got to look at the supply chain and make sure that we are funneling that so that builders don't have to sit there and go overseas to find things. And then we need to make sure that we really stop paying down this debt, make sure that we stop the borrowing, stop the spending. I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels, because our kids are not going to forgive us for all the spending that happened. And as much as everybody wants to talk about how Donald Trump had a good economy, $9 trillion in debt, he did just in 4 years. And we're all paying the price of that, including those mortgages.
She has no recollection of 2008.
We're going to come back to President Trump, I promise. Governor Desantis, the latest News Nation Decision Desk poll found that inflation tops the worries of American voters. 61%.
This time in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, will feature 4 candidates, mainly vying for second place behind frontrunner former President Donald Trump, who will not be in attendance.
Give me one moment. One moment to fix this. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the heck. But I do think this is something. Oh, I know what happened. I apologize for that. I'll catch up.
And the working class is hardest hit.
My apologies.
Economists say this was fueled by a glut of federal spending. The Biden administration has added $6 trillion to the national debt so far, but President Trump wasn't exactly a penny pincher. His administration added $7.8 trillion.
Yeah, that was part of the
Do
problem.
Republicans, including President Trump, share the blame for inflation? And what concrete steps would a President Desantis take to help Americans
That was
make
the
ends
worst
meet?
element to his
The
president.
borrowing, printing, and spending of money was both parties in Washington, D.C. That's just a fact. These Republicans in Washington have spent. It's driven your prices
really?
higher, and it's driven your interest rates to
Steve
the
is
point
there?
where you
I didn't
can't
know that.
afford. I met a young fella in Iowa.
Okay.
He had graduated college a couple years ago, and he's like, Governor, I don't have a chance. I'm gainfully employed. He's like, I have no chance to afford a home and start a family. That is taking the American dream away from people. So we're going to get the inflation down. We're going to get the interest rates down. We are going to reduce spending, and I will be willing to veto, and I vetoed a lot as governor of Florida, and we'll do that. We're also going to open up all of our domestic energy for production, lower your gas prices, lower the price of fuel. That's going to help the economy. It also help jobs, and we'll do it. But, you know, another thing that's burdening young people are these student loans. Now, I don't support having a truck driver having to pay a student loan for someone that got a degree in gender studies. That is wrong. We should not have taxpayers do that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to get to the root cause of the problem. These student loans are going to be backed by the universities because they need to have an incentive to produce gainful employment for people. They should not be indulging in ideological
Change our
studies. They
whole
should be
education
focusing on things that work. And we're going to take some of this money and we're going to move it to actual vocational training.
Yes.
In Florida, we doubled apprenticeships. We have more
Yes.
truck drivers.
Yes.
These are in-demand skills.
Yes.
Don't let
Yes.
anybody tell you that the only way you can be successful is through a 4-year brick and ivy degree. That's one way you can be. It's not the only way. And we're
There's
going
a lot
to
of
fix
ways to
that
do it
problem in
much
the United
easier
States
without
of
that
America.
nonsense. Biggest scam in the world.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you praised cryptocurrency like Bitcoin as an opt-out from our, quote, broken financial architecture, and you oppose efforts to regulate it. The head of the largest international crypto exchange just pleaded guilty to allowing his platform to launder money for terrorists, including Hamas. You say your cryptocurrency plan will, quote, ensure economic freedom for Americans, end quote. Won't it also ensure economic freedom for fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists?
Look, fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists have been defrauding people for a long time. Our regulations need to catch up with the current moment. The fact that SBF was able to do what he did at FTX shows that whatever they have as the current framework isn't working. And I think it is nothing short of embarrassing that Gary Gensler, the current leader of the SEC, in front of Congress, could not even say whether Ethereum counted as a regulated security or not. And so I think that this is just another example of the administrative state gone too far. Here's the dirty little secret in American politics today. The people who we elect to run the government are not the ones who are even actually that are writing regulations that Congress never gave them the authority to write. And the good news is a U.S. president can absolutely fix that. That takes a U.S. president with a spine. So what I've said is in my administration, by the end of year one, we will have a 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats. We will shut down government agencies that should not exist. We will rescind any regulation that fails the test of West Virginia versus EPA, which is the most important Supreme Court case of our lifetime, that said if Congress didn't delegate that to an administrative agency, then it's unconstitutional. These are seismic changes. These are big changes that the next president can deliver without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. And I want people to understand that distinction, because people have been sold myths by politicians for a long time saying, I'm going to work with Congress to do this or that. Much of what you've heard on the stage from the other politicians fit that description. They need Congress. The things that I'm promising you, this is what the leader of the executive branch gets to do under Article 2 of the Constitution.
Thank you, sir.
Cut down the bureaucracy. That's how we grow our economy and put the Federal Reserve in its place. This is part of the crypto discussion.
No.
90%
Mr.
headcount reduction at the Fed.
You're out of time. 15 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
So one of the dangers that we're going to face, Biden wants, is a central bank digital currency. They want to get rid of cash, crypto. They want to force you to do that. They'll take away your privacy. They will absolutely regulate your purchases. On day one as president, we take the idea of central bank digital currency and we throw it in the trash can. It'll be dead on arrival.
I agree with that. Gotta get a break. Gotta get a break. I have a whole second hour to get to. It's exciting. And when we come back, we got a big subject. Huge, you might even say, Donald Trump. Stay tuned.
All right, let's move forward a little bit here.
RNC Youth Environment.
Incredible. Bank your vote. Your vote 20.
Where the confiscation stands and unburden you. Free info to help you diversify your hard-earned savings. Text now to 989898.
Today, while call Tax Network USA today.
Oh my God, that was loud. That was loud. All right. Honestly, I think so far, I mean, DeSantis has been pretty strong. He has been. He's been much stronger than he was in prior debates, and so is Vivek. I think that I would expect to see a mild rise. I think that Haley's is sort of been bleeding, and you can even see it in the crowd, which started off like so excited by anything that Haley had to say, and even at this point, they're like, so. Yeah, I think that Ron is actually doing fairly well in this. This is the best version of Ron that we've seen, and I think Vivek came out like swinging, and he hasn't stopped. And one of the things I think the final point that he made there is a very important thing, which is, and all politicians on both sides of the aisle are constantly saying, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you're like, yeah, okay, fine. If you get Congress's approval, which you never will get, so you basically can promise it, and then when that doesn't go through, you say, well, Congress got my way. So what the heck? It's all just empty promises from both sides. What Vivek is basically saying is like, no, my plan is basically how to use the powers of the executive branch that are going to be under my exclusive domain to actually implement these policies. So I have to come up with policies that I actually will have the authority to oversee. So that's actually a nice change.
Governor Christie pointed out, and less so for most of you, on the front runner in this race, Donald Trump. We invited him to come tonight, as you know, but he declined to come. But we'd like to ask you a couple questions about him now. Ambassador Haley, former President Trump recently promised, if he's reelected, to bring back and expand his program restricting immigration from Muslim countries. Here he is in Iowa on October 16th.
No longer will we allow dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs to get residency in our country. We're not going to let them stay here. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. You're just disqualified.
Ambassador Haley, do you support President Trump's plan for ideological screening?
Well, I don't think that you have a straight up Muslim ban as much as you look at the countries that have terrorist activity that want to hurt Americans. You can ban those people from those countries. That's the way we should look at it, is which countries are a threat to us. You look at what came across the southern border. What worries me the most are those that came from Iran, from Yemen, from Lebanon, those areas where they say death to America. That's where you want to be careful. It's not about a religion. It's about a fact that certain countries are dangerous and are threats to us. A president has one job, and that's to keep Americans safe. And that's what we've got to do, is make sure that we have good national security in that process. And that's the way you should look at it, is where the terrorist threats are, how we're going to deal with it, and what we're doing about it. And the biggest threat we have right now is communist China. But you have to also look at what Iran and Russia are doing as well. And we need to be paying attention to that. That's why we have to focus on things like cyber, on space, on artificial intelligence, and not just the regular things that we've always focused on.
It's not just terrorism, though. That's important. But look what's happened in Europe. You have more anti-Semitism in Germany than at any time since Adolf Hitler. Why? Because they imported mass numbers of people who reject their culture. Europe is committing suicide with the mass migration, and it's illegal and legal. Nikki Haley said the other day there should be no limits on legal immigration, and that corporate CEOs should set the policy on that. There needs to be limits on immigration, and we should not be importing people from cultures that are hostile. So, for example, I said with the Gaza, you had some of the squad wanted to import 300,000 people from the Gaza Strip. I said, no, we're not taking anyone from Gaza, because of the anti-Semitism and because they reject American culture. So we've got to get smart about this. We cannot let the United States be like Europe.
So there's lower-hanging fruit here, if I may just hit this point, because it relates to what they just said. There are things that the government can do right now that nobody's talking about amongst the professional politicians in this race. What about all of the illegals who are already here? Here's the answer. There's 287G in the law. That is a provision that already allows ICE agents to deputize or allow local law enforcement to enforce those ICE warrants. And it shocks me that nobody in the Republican Party is talking about it, because there are 1 million then officials, law enforcement officials in this country. And against that backdrop, we absolutely have the ability to deport anybody who's in this country illegally.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
need to be talking about
Ramaswamy.
more in this.
Thank you. Governor Christie.
I actually did that as governor of South Carolina.
Governor Christie asked last night in Iowa whether he would be a dictator if he wins a second term in office. Donald Trump quipped, no, quote, except for day one, promising to seal the southern border. He has also pledged to begin the largest deportation operation in American history, saying that migrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country. He has pledged to round up and expel an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. What do you make of that plan?
I think it's completely predictable. I mean, look, he's made it very clear. There's no mystery to what he wants to do. He started off his campaign by saying, I am your retribution. 8 years ago, he said, I am your voice.
That's so stupid.
This is an angry, bitter man who now wants to be back as president because he wants to exact retribution on anyone who has disagreed with him, anyone who has tried to hold him to account for his own conduct.
You're terrified.
And every one of these policies he's talking about are about pursuing a plan of retribution. And yet, at the first debate, my three colleagues on this stage, when asked if he would be convicted of federal felonies, would they still support him, raise their hand, look into the camera, and let everybody know that they would still support him, even if convicted of federal felonies. Federal felonies, by the way. Federal felonies, which involve our election process, federal felonies, which involve the most sensitive of our governmental secrets, federal felonies where he instructed others to commit crimes, folks who are now agreeing to go to jail because of what they did in his name. So do I think he was kidding when he said he was a dictator? All you have to do is look at the history. And that's why failing to speak out against him,
this dude is
making excuses for
him,
pretending that somehow he's a victim,
shut up,
empowers him. You want to know why those poll numbers are where they are? Because folks like these three guys on the stage make it seem like his conduct is acceptable.
You're so stupid.
Let me make it clear.
You're so stupid. You're such a loser. You fat, stupid loser. My God, how humiliating. This guy was once in charge of overseeing as an attorney general.
His conduct is unacceptable. He's unfit. And be careful of what you're going to get. If you ever got another Donald Trump term, he's letting you know, I am your retribution. He will only be, Elizabeth, he will only be his own retribution. He doesn't care for the American people.
The only reason they put him up
it's
on
Donald Trump first.
The only reason
Thank you, Governor Christie. Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis. Thank you. Thank you. Governor DeSantis. Donald Trump would be older on day one of his second presidency than Joe Biden was on day one of his first. You have said Trump is not the same man he was when he ran in 2016. Your campaign is running ads showing Trump confused. And you have said he has, quote, lost the zip on his fastball. You seem to be saying Donald Trump is no longer mentally fit to be president. Is that what you think?
Look, he is showing father time is undefeated. The idea that we're going to put someone up there that's almost 80 and there's going to be no effects from that, we all know that that's not true. And so we have an opportunity to do a next generation of leaders and really be able to move this country forward. We also need a president that can serve 2 terms. I don't think Donald Trump, I think he's going to have, I don't think he'd be able to get elected. The Democrats want him to be the nominee. We see that. They are going to turn the screws the minute, if he got the nomination,
but do you think he's
you're going to see it.
Fit to be president?
I think we need to have somebody younger. I think when you get up to 80, I don't think it's a job. But let me just respond to some of the things there. Look, the media is making a big deal about what he said about some of these comments. I would just remind people that is not how he governed. He didn't even fire Dr. Fauci. He didn't fire Christopher Wray. He didn't clean up the swamp. He said he was going to drain it. He did not drain it. He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. We don't have the wall. He did say in 2016 he'd have the largest deportation program in history. He deported less than Barack Obama did when Barack Obama was president. So some of these policies he ran on in 16, I was cheering him on then, but he didn't deliver it. Here's what I can promise people. 100% of the things I promised as governor, I delivered on those promises. I beat the left time and time again, and that's what I'll do for you as president. We got to start winning again as a party. Yes, win the election, but we've got to start getting these issues. I will go in and wreak havoc on this bureaucracy. You will see people fired, and we are going to bring a reckoning for how this government handled COVID-19.
Here's what irritates me. Now, Chris, you had your chance to wax eloquent on Donald Trump. You've been doing it all this whole race.
Why doesn't he just answer the question? The question was very direct. Is he fit to be president or isn't he? The rest of the speech is interesting, but completely non-responsive. And if we were in a courtroom, they'd strike the answer and say, Governor DeSantis,
no, they would. They would say
you're a smart man. No, they would.
No, they wouldn't.
They would
Chris.
strike the answer
no, they wouldn't.
because you're not answering it.
You just don't like. You have your thing.
Is he fit or isn't he? No, I don't have my thing.
We don't.
He's the thing. Is he fit
or isn't he?
You're talking about him being 80 years old.
It doesn't mean that somebody couldn't get elected. That's up to the people.
Governor DeSantis, let him
fit or isn't he?
Governor DeSantis, let him finish.
Ron,
I think we have an opportunity to do somebody who is in the prime of their life. We don't have to worry about all this stuff with confidence. We can get it done, and we'll do it.
I'm going to come to you. Finish.
Look, Father Time is undefeated. I don't know how he would score on a test, but I know this. We have an opportunity to nominate someone and elect someone for 2 terms who's going to be spitting nails on day one and for 8 years deliver you big result. We should not nominate somebody who's almost 80 years old.
Okay. He's afraid to answer.
No, I'm not.
You have to either you're afraid or you're not listening.
No, it's not.
There's a simple question.
Is he fit? Hey, nobody can hear this. No one can hear you. They can't hear you. You finish and then you get it back.
All right.
Look.
He is afraid to
I'm a simple guy.
It's true.
Okay? I hear the question.
That's true.
And I answer it. Is he fit or isn't he? I'll concede you're fit, Ron. You're a new generation. You're 44 years old. I wish I was still 44 years old. Okay?
45.
So, well, congratulations. I'd still take 45. Is he fit or isn't he? And this is the problem with my 3 colleagues. They're afraid to offend. And let me tell you something. If you're afraid to offend Donald Trump,
you're the one.
What are you going to do when you sit across from President Xi? You sit across from the Ayatollah. You sit across from Putin.
You have to be willing to offend with the truth and answer the
about
question.
offending.
Fit or unfit?
Okay, listen.
Fit or
I
unfit?
promise Ron DeSantis a minute and not a full minute.
I've got
A second.
It is not about
You can weigh in
offending.
and then we're moving
It's
on.
about pointing out, do you want to elect somebody who will be older than Biden was when he went in
Still not answering the
2021?
question, though, Ron.
I don't think he's as bad as Biden was at all. But I do think that over a 4-year period, it is not a job for somebody that's pushing 80. We need somebody that's younger. We need somebody that's going to be able to go in there and clean house on day one and do it for 2 terms. And I'll be able to
Here's
do
my
that.
issue with all 3 of my other colleagues on this debate stage, is all 3 of them have been licking Donald Trump's boots for years for money and endorsements. Ron DeSantis, you've been a great governor, but you would have never been one without actually begging Donald Trump for that endorsement.
And you attacked him in your book a year ago.
Same thing with Chris Christie as a lobbyist, begging them for COVID money for his special interests in New Jersey, prepping him for the debates
how's
last
truth
time around.
feeling now,
These
Christie?
people are now Monday morning quarterbacking some decision he made. I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11.
Yes.
That the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform.
Yes.
That the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech.
Wow.
That the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion oath saying it was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who are licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking him and criticizing him when it's convenient.
Governor Christie.
Yeah, get him. Room for him, Viva.
You do not favor a ban on trans medical treatments for minors, saying it's a parental rights issue. The surgeries done on minors involve cutting off body parts
sucks.
at a
You
time when these
suck,
kids
Christie,
cannot
in
even
every
legally smoke a
possible way.
cigarette. Kids who go from puberty blockers to cross-sex hormones are at a much greater likelihood of winding up sterile. How is it that you think a parent should be able to okay these surgeries, never mind the sterilization of a child? And aren't you way too out of step on this issue to be the Republican nominee?
Yes.
No, I'm not.
Oh my God.
Because Republicans believe in less government, not more.
Oh,
in
that's
less
not the
involvement
point.
with government,
That's not the
more
point.
government involvement in people's lives.
They're
And you know what,
destroying,
Megyn?
mutilating their own
I
children.
trust parents.
You're an idiot.
And we're out there
Wow,
saying
you're
that
so
we should
stupid.
empower parents in education.
You're so
We should
stupid.
empower parents to make more decisions about where their kids go to school.
God.
I agree. We should empower parents to be teaching the
You're so
values
out of
that
touch
they believe
with
in their
parents.
homes without the government telling them what those values should be.
Oh my God.
And yet we want to take other parental rights away. I'm sorry. As a father of 4, I believe there is no one who loves my children more than me.
Yeah, and that
There's
doesn't
no
mean
one
you don't
who
suck
loves
as a
my
parent,
children
loser.
more than my wife. There's no one who cares more about their success and health in life than we do. Not some government bureaucrat, not some. You look at these
Oh my
jokers
God.
down in Congress.
You're a joker.
It takes them 3 weeks to pick a speaker. And up until 2 days ago, they couldn't promote somebody in the military in the United States Senate who earned their new rank. And we're going to put my children's health and my decisions in their hands.
The only reason
for
he's
them to
fine
make
with
those
mutilating
decisions,
genitalia,
for Joe
he hasn't
Biden
seen his
to
own in
make those
20 years.
decisions, for me and for my wife, let me just say this. This is not something I favor. I think it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. But that's my opinion as a parent, Megyn. And I get to make the decisions about my children, not anybody else. And every parent out there who's watching tonight, you start to turn over just a little bit of this authority, the authority they're going to take from you next, you're not going to like. I'll stand up for parents each and every time.
So there are laws banning drinking or drinking by a certain age.
Let me tell you something. I have a follow-up question for him, and you guys are going to get to weigh in. Okay,
Tell him.
here's my follow-up
Tell him,
question.
Joe.
You talk about parental rights. Let's talk about them.
Jackass.
When you were governor in 2017, you signed a law that required new guidelines for schools dealing with transgender students. Those guidelines required schools to accept a child's preferred gender identity, even if the minor's parents objected.
Not true.
And it said that there is no duty for schools to notify parents if their son or daughter changes their gender identity, allowing this serious issue to remain a secret between the school and a child. How is any of that pro-parental rights?
By the way, that's simply not true.
You're doing what you accuse me of, Chris. It is absolutely true.
That's simply not true. That's simply not true. That law was put into effect in 2018 and regulated in 2018 after I was out of office, Megyn. No, we did not, Megyn. We did not issue those guidelines, and you're wrong about that. Simply wrong. I have stood up each and every time.
So I think if this is one issue that's disqualifying, it's this one.
I stood up every single time for parents to be able to make the decisions for their minor children.
They should be able to beat their kids.
Every single time, parents should make those decisions. And by the way, you know what? Every once in a while,
right, Ron?
Parents are going to make decisions that we disagree with. But the minute you start to take those rights away from parents, you don't know that slippery slope, what rights are going to be taken away next, and what's going to be focused on.
As a parent, you do not have the right to abuse your kids.
Thank you.
This is cutting off their genitals.
Go the hell,
This is mutilating these minors. These are irreversible procedures. And this is something that other countries in Europe, like Sweden, once they started doing it, they saw it did incalculable damage. They've shut it down.
Yes.
I signed legislation in Florida banning the mutilation of minors because it is wrong. We cannot allow this to happen in this country. And I know Chris disagrees with me, and I think he has an honest position. Nikki disagrees with me. She opposes the bill that we did to ban that. She said the law shouldn't get involved with it. You said the law shouldn't get involved with it. She also, though, I think, and this flows from what she did as governor of South Carolina, they had a bill to try to say that men shouldn't go into girls' bathrooms. And she killed that bill, and she bragged that she killed that bill. Even to this day, she bragged that. I don't think men should be going into little girls' bathrooms. I think it's wrong. And I think we have every right to protect them from that.
Parents want to go to the bathrooms, they should.
I am going to come to you. I promise 10 seconds. Go quickly.
I think the North Star here is transgenderism is a mental health disorder. We don't let you smoke a cigarette by the age of 18. We don't let you have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21. And I just challenge Ron DeSantis to go one step further and support what I think is clearly within the authority to do using federal funds, just like Reagan did in '84. For the Highway Act that said the minimum drinking age needs to be 21. We can do the same thing when it comes to banning genital mutilation or chemical castration. I know Ron's been unclear about that on the federal level. I'm crystal clear. That's where I stand.
Got it.
That's a mental health disorder. That's where we need to be at.
Go ahead.
So first of all, Ron has continued to lie because he's losing.
No, it's not a lie.
You are lying.
You said it on tape.
So first of all, I will say that when I was governor 10 years ago, when the bathroom situation came up, we had maybe a handful of kids that were dealing with an issue. And I said, we don't need to bring government into this, but boys go into boys' bathrooms, girls go into girls' bathrooms. And if anyone else has an issue, they use a private bathroom. Now, 10 years later, we see that this issue has exploded. And this shows how hypocritical Ron continues to be. When he was running for governor and they asked him about that, he said he didn't think bathroom bills were a good use of his time. You can go look that up.
I signed a bathroom bill in Florida, so that's obviously not true.
So the idea that you would say that I was against that.
You didn't. You killed it. I signed it. I stood up for little girls. You didn't do it. And there was this going on. I was actually just in South Carolina. Some of the legislators told me at the time there were boys going into the girls. That's the whole reason why they did it.
No.
And so they say when she does that explanation that doesn't hold water. And this is the upstate of South Carolina.
Ron,
I signed the bill. I protected
the girls.
Do you know
South Carolinians?
She did not do it.
Do you know South Carolinians? Because South Carolinians, no. You are not going to talk about my state like that, because I will tell you for a fact, South Carolinians never allowed that to happen. And we did not have that issue at the time. What I have always said is boys go into a boys' bathroom, girls go into a girls' bathroom. But hold on one second. I also say that biological boys shouldn't be playing in girls' sports. And I will do everything I can to stop that, because it's the women's issue of our time.
I signed legislation to protect women's sports. I actually get this stuff done.
Got it.
Thank you, guys. We're going to move on. Mr. Ramaswamy, when discussing your Hindu faith in September, you seemed to take a shot at Ambassador Haley, who is also Indian American and who converted to Christianity as an adult.
For crying out loud.
You said, an easy thing for me to do, being a politician, is to shorten my name profess to be a Christian, and then run. Make Vivek Vicky or whatever, end quote. Are you questioning Nikki Haley's Christian convictions? And why has your campaign made a point of referring to Ambassador Haley by her given first name, Nimarata, even though she's gone by Nikki for her whole life?
Well, my whole deal is if Nikki Haley, of all people, should know how to pronounce my name correctly, the rest of the news media can learn it. My deal is I'll call her Nikki when she can say my own name right. And that's our little fun side bet there. Here's what I will say is deeper. I don't question her faith, but I question her authenticity. And I think that's deeper here. We were just talking about the trans issue.
Yep.
This is a symptom of a deeper cancer in American life. Identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic. It's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. And I've spoken about this to the left. My books are all about this. I've preached this to the left, but it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. We're talking about that trans issue. And Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And in actual instant, there's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppet right up here tonight. This is how this game is played. The puppet masters put up their puppet, and I reject the use of identity politics in this party. It has been a cancer coming from the left, and I'm sick and tired of the double standards. The people of this country are too. Having 2 X chromosomes does not immunize you from criticism.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Governor Haley, would you like to respond?
No. It's not worth my time to respond to him.
You have been using identity politics at every step. She knows it's true, and that's why she's actually
okay, sir, we're not going to give you a response to the question that was to you.
Okay, we got to move on to this. Now, by arrangement with the Republican National Committee, we've got 2 questions for you about the Justice Department and our election system. Here's Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch. Governor Christie, this one's for you.
President Trump and many of his supporters claim federal law enforcement agencies have abused his civil rights for the last 8 years by, among other things, spying on him and now prosecuting him while having treated Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden with kid gloves. A recent Gallup poll shows that Americans think more highly of the U.S. Postal Service than they do the FBI or Justice Department. What would you do as president to restore the faith of the American people in these agencies?
This is not...
Well, first off, I'm the only person on this stage who's actually done a job in the Department of Justice. I was the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, in the 5th largest office in this country, appointed by President Bush on September 10th, 2001. And it was an extraordinary time in this country to be on the front lines of fighting the greatest attack against our country since Pearl Harbor. And I'm proud of the 7 years I spent in the Justice Department. And one of the reasons I am is because I had an Attorney General when I came in.
You keep talking about answering the question.
And John
is how will you restore faith?
And told each and every one of us our job was to do one thing,
Chrissy.
To make sure justice was done every day,
Come on,
regardless
Chrissy.
of partisanship, regardless of gender or race or any other consideration.
You sit here.
And that's what we did for 7 years. And at a time when our country was at its greatest moment of danger in the last 40 years.
Answer the question.
We did exactly that. There was not another domestic terrorist attack on this soil. So what I would do as president, having had that experience, and the only one who's had that experience, is to pick an attorney general who will absolutely do the same thing that John Ashcroft did, to pick U.S. attorneys who will only care about making sure that justice is done without regard to any other consideration but the facts that are presented and whether someone is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and the government can prove it. And we have had attorneys general like Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch and Jeff Sessions, and now our current attorney general, who have not met that standard. And the only way you restore people's faith in the justice system is to put someone like that in charge of the Justice Department, and then as president to get the hell out of the way on anything that involves criminal investigations. If a president's involved in trying to do something and put their thumb on the scales, Donald Trump says he will do, that makes people much less likely to believe our justice system can be fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor DeSantis, next one's for you. Back to Tom Fitton.
Many Republicans are concerned about the legitimacy of elections. A federal judge just ruled that Pennsylvania must count undated mail-in ballots, and unlike Alabama, many states still don't require any identification to vote. What should states do now to increase election integrity and voter confidence for the 2024 election?
Well, Tom, thanks for the question. Thanks for what you guys do at Judicial Watch. It's really, really important. There's a lot of corruption in this government. You guys are doing a great job. What you should do for election integrity is do what we did in Florida. 20 years ago, Florida and elections was a joke. Everybody would laugh at it. I came in, I removed a couple supervisors from South Florida. We require voter ID universal, no Zuckerbucks, no mass mail balloting, and no ballot harvesting. We even have an agency that prosecutes people for violating election laws. The result of that in both 2020 and 2022, we counted millions and millions of votes on election night, produced the results. It was transparent, and everybody was happy. That is not happening throughout this country. But let me tell you this as the nominee. I think it's important. Not every state's where we need it to be. There is ballot harvesting in places like Nevada, all these places. I am not going to fight with one hand tied behind my back. I'm going to have organizations in all the swing states. If they're harvesting, we're harvesting. If they're Zuckerbucks, we're Zuckerbucks. We are going to exploit whatever the rules are. I favor changing the rules to be like Florida and some of the other states that have done a good job. But until then, we have to do that. And then just on the Justice Department and FBI. I mean, I remember being, in Iraq working with FBI on the ground and being, and then I was a special assistant. I used to have such a high regard for these agencies. What they did to Donald Trump with the Russia collusion was one of the biggest abuses of power in the history of our country. These agencies need to be cleaned out. With me, you'll have a new FBI director on day one. We're going to clear out the DOJ, the IRS, all these places. Buckle your seatbelts. There's going to be a new sheriff in town.
Thank you. All right, we got to do a quick break. We're going to come back in 1 minute. China up next.
Wow. 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 And you're spot on correct. I don't want to hit the horn in the middle of them talking, but you don't have a right to harm your kid the way Christie is advocating for. That guy's a freaking lunatic. And as far as like you know how I'm going to fix the tarnished DOJ reputation? Why is it that everyone thinks it's tarnished? Because even the left can see how corrupt these charges against Donald Trump are that this jackass can't see. Unbelievable. Whatever little faith people still have in the DOJ would completely evaporate under the likes of the sad weight of a Christie presidency. Good golly, what a lunatic! Guy's a sicko. And his policy with respect to trans kids, trust the parents. You haven't seen the Munchausen by proxy that we've seen all these stupid, crazy parents, like that woman who's a director in Disney, who's like, I have one kid, who has one kid who's 2 kids under 12 years old, and she's like, well, I guess I'm not gonna have any kids. One of my kids is gay, and the other is going trans. It's like, yeah. What are the chances? That it's not that you're some sicko who's just planting these seeds in their minds? But parents all know best. Oh, they all know best. We need to trust the parents. Let them keep mutilating their kids. What a sick, fat individual that dude is. What a terrible human being. Terrible human being. Destroy our DOJ. Go after people who he just doesn't like because he doesn't like them. Twist our laws into knots and mutilate and let wacko parents mutilate their kids. What a freaking lunatic. Oh my God. And watching Nikki Haley slowly wither and die throughout this entire thing is a delicious thing to watch also, because she's a menace. If you have any relatives in the armed forces, good luck under a Haley presidency. Good golly. And some of these questions, I mean, the only one who can ask a normal question here is Megyn Kelly. These other 2 yokels, I have no idea who they are. I don't ever want to know who they are. I just know that they're walking disasters. That woman asking a question as far as Vivek and the whole thing, asking about like Christian politics and and attacking the women. It's like, what the heck is wrong with you? And Vivek had a perfect answer. Okay, thank you. Just like cutting him off when he's because they're just frustrated with the fact that he keeps knocking one out of the park after another. Look, are any of these yokels going to win? No, obviously not. Donald Trump is going to be our next candidate. We all know that. But it's good to take notes. To take notes on who it is that sounds like they're actually have credible follow-up to hopefully a Trump administration rather than someone who's a walking disaster. It's good to take notes on which of these journalists actually know how to ask a question and which of them are neocons. And when they stuff an audience full of a bunch of neocons who are like, yay, Nikki, let's kill everybody, send American troops everywhere because we're at war with the entire world. Oh my God. So it's so sickening. So damn sickening. I'm sorry. I have no idea how he's any different from a Democrat. I got no idea. It's a good question, Tam. Great question. No idea. This is what's happening on that. Are we live? We're live? Yeah, we're live. Okay, so we're good there. I like this feed much better than what I'm using now. So thank you for encouraging me to go down this road, prospering woman. I appreciate that. Most Band Queen says Haley should be embarrassed. She needs a man like Christie to defend her honor. I know that whole white knight simping. Oh my God, how humiliating. That was just an embarrassment. That was just a freaking embarrassment. That was terrible. Worcestershire over in Locals saying, Joe, the thing that brings me most joy right now is Joe excited about politics. It's true. It's true. I was getting so burnt out, and I'm watching this, and I'm really kind of enjoying. I'm kind of having fun, like watching like Vivek just sort of like whack him around. Yeah, Viva, I hear that Viva's there. I'm sorry, I'm checking over my Locals chat there, where fans say not all audience are neocons. Viva's there. Well, he's got to scream louder. He's got to. It's like a Price is Right audience there.
Welcome back to the final GOP presidential primary debate of 2023. We're going to talk about our college campuses, starting with you, Ambassador Haley. House Republicans yesterday hauled elite university presidents up to Capitol Hill to answer for the displays of anti-Semitism on college campuses. These leaders, including the president of Harvard, were asked whether calling for the genocide of the Jews would violate school policies against harassment and intimidation. All of them said it would depend on the context, including whether that speech veers into conduct. How do you think these schools and the rest of society should balance the imperative of free speech against the need to prevent radical activists from harassing and intimidating others?
It was disgusting to see what happened. You know, if this had been the KKK that was doing protests on those campuses, every one of those college presidents would have been up in arms.
Yes.
This is just as bad. The idea that they would go and allow that kind of pro-Hamas protest or agree with the genocide of Jews and try and say that they needed context on that, there is no context to that. This is what we need to do to deal with it. First of all, we have got to get foreign money out of our universities.
Yes,
you've got Arab money, you've got Chinese money, you've got others. We need to go to every university and say, you either take foreign money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. The second thing we need to do... The second thing we need to do is Biden made a mistake not including anti-Zionism in the definition of anti-Semitism. If you don't think that Israel has a right to exist, that is anti-Semitic. We will change the definition so that every government, every school has to acknowledge the definition for what it is. The third thing is we really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why.
You're never going to get that one through.
For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that. We now know that 50% of adults 18 to 25 think that Hamas was warranted in what they did with Israel. That's a problem. When campuses also don't go and protect when they have these rallies and you've got students that are scared, we need to go to these universities and say, if you're not going to protect these students, if you're not going to acknowledge anti-Semitism, we'll take your tax-exempt status away. That'll fix it, and that'll take care of it for good.
Staying with you, Ambassador Haley. On October 6th, the Israeli government thought it had a clear-eyed view of the threat from Hamas. In fact, according to the New York Times, it even had Hamas's attack plan and dismissed it as an aspiration. The Israelis were wrong. In our country, the FBI director told the Senate panel just yesterday that he sees, quote, blinking red lights everywhere, and that the threat level has, quote, gone to a whole nother level since October 7th. Which of the threats facing our country do you worry could blindside us?
What worries me and what keeps me up at night is what happens between now and Election Day while Joe Biden's in office. That's what worries me more than anything else. But I'll tell you that America right now is acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like, because it only takes one. And whether you're looking at open borders that are allowing people to come in, Iran knows the easiest way to get to America is through the southern border. And we're not doing anything to stop it. We've got to get the foreign infiltration out of our country, whether it's in our schools, whether it's on our social media, whether it's we need to stop all foreign lobbying that's happening to members of Congress. And we need to start securing America again. Until we do that, we are going to be at threats. We've got to look at Iran, China, and Russia want to destroy the West. We have to start acting strong again. We've got to start protecting Americans. Right now, Americans don't feel protected, and we're not doing anything to strengthen it. So Joe Biden continues to be a problem. That'll change on Election Day.
Everybody,
if China invades Taiwan, would you send American troops, as President Biden has said he would do?
We will be able to deter that from happening. I think that's the important thing. We need a strategy of denial so that we're deterring Xi's ambitions.
What if it doesn't work?
It's going to work. Taiwan's an ally. We have longstanding American policy, and you know how that's done, and we will follow that. But here's the thing. Taiwan is important not just because of semiconductors. It's important because if China is able to break out of this first island chain, they're going to be able to dominate commerce in the entire Indo-Pacific. They will use that to export authoritarianism all around the world, including here in the United States. You look at some of these guys, actually some of them that are supporting Nikki on Wall Street, they grovel to China. Anytime something happens, they got to go do that. So they already exert a huge amount of authority over this country. It will get a lot worse. So deterring China's ambitions is the #1 national security task that I will do as president, and we will succeed. The 21st century needs to be an American century. We cannot let it be a Chinese century.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
I think we need to be clear. I'll be clear on the same issue, if I may.
I'm coming to you next on Taiwan. You said if you want to stop Xi from invading Taiwan, quote, let's open a branch of the NRA in Taiwan and put an AR-15 in the hands of every family and train them how to use it. That will give Xi a taste of American exceptionalism, end quote. The National Police in Taiwan announced a zero-gun policy last year. Is this a serious policy proposal? And if it isn't, why do you keep repeating it?
Well, it's part of a broader deterrence strategy. And so I think I'm going to respectfully disagree with Ron here. I think the next U.S. president needs to be crystal clear that at least for the foreseeable future, the U.S. will absolutely defend Taiwan. And it is with that clarity that we actually achieve deterrence. But I have a broader strategy than that. We need to get on side in our relationship with India, take it to the next level. India has to be able to block the Andaman Sea, which is where China gets most of its Middle Eastern oil supplies. That's critical. I also do believe the Second Amendment is a critical way of preventing foreign autocrats from being able to, it's worked in America, why wouldn't it work in Taiwan? So it is part of a broader strategy. But I do think that we need to be specific about our deterrence strategy, or else Xi Jinping is just encroaching by the day. And the reason why we're not doing it for China, I want to be crystal clear, is because we're scared. Why are we scared? Because we depend on them for our modern way of life. Why do we depend on them for our modern way of life? It's because Nikki Haley's latest friends like Larry Fink have created commingled economies with BlackRock telling Exxon and Chevron they can't drill here, while being a shareholder of PetroChina, not applying those same constraints in China. So it is our economic dependence on China that makes us scared. If that were a Russian spy balloon, we'd have shot it down in an instant. If that were a Russian spy base in Cuba, we'd be actually going hard on them instead of turning the other way as we are with China. So it comes back down to that economic dependence. We cannot depend on them for our pharmaceuticals, our semiconductors, and people have been lied to for a long time. Our own military, the F-35 jets that we make in this country, depend on China, and it's going to take an outsider to fix that broken establishment.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Ambassador Haley, would you like to respond?
I mean, when it comes to China and Taiwan, the one way that we keep China from going into Taiwan is One, make sure that we win in Ukraine, that we protect our friends, but also let China know that they'll be hell to pay.
What
if
the
they go
hell
into
does that
Taiwan.
mean?
They need to know that there is going to be a force that's going to go
stupid.
against them. And
Oh
they
my
need to know it's
God.
not just going to be the United States. That is why we need to build our partnerships
She's
with
crazy.
India, with South Korea, with
She's
Japan,
crazy.
with the Philippines, with Australia. We need to start pulling that
Yeah,
alliance
India's
together.
gonna go into
and
China
the
for
first
us,
way we
right?
do that is we need to make
The
sure that on
Philippines are
day
going on
one
into
we
China,
look at the
right?
fact whatever, if China pulled the rug out from under us tomorrow, would we be ready? Think about what happened during COVID. Everybody told you
about
to
your
wear a
friends in
mask. They
BlackRock?
were made in China. Everybody told you to take a COVID test. They were made in China. Everybody went and, I mean, everything that happened. If you go to the drugstore, all those medicines are made in China. We have to make sure that we are not relying on China for anything related to our national security, which means let's start focusing on doing deals with our friends now.
Thank you, Ambassador. Governor Christie, I'd like you to weigh in on that. And do you think arming every family in Taiwan with an AR-15 is a plausible policy?
You know, I don't think we have constitutional authority over Taiwan to give them a Second Amendment. I think they can only do that for themselves. But look, I want to be really clear. Once again, I want to play the role of actually answering your question, which is if China went after Taiwan, you're absolutely right. I would, as president, have us go militarily and defend them. Secondly, I'm not afraid, based upon those economic relationships, to do that, because these economic relationships mean nothing. Nothing. If what's going to happen is that China is going to come and act in that region of the world however they see fit. It's not right. And I'll say this about what I heard from Nikki earlier.
I mean, we got.
She said that Donald Trump was good on trade. He wasn't. And the proof that he wasn't good on trade with China is that all he did was impose tariffs, which raised the prices for every American. You want to know what has contributed to inflation in this country? Yes, it's more government spending. Yes, it's the fact that we're printing too much money. Absolutely. But it is also the increase in prices that were driven by Donald Trump's tariffs. And one last thing. You can't say he was good on trade because he didn't trade. He didn't change one Chinese policy in the process. He failed on it.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Governor DeSantis, switching subjects here. For 15 years, Republicans have been burned by politicians' promises to repeal Obamacare. Trump repeatedly promised to replace it with, quote, something terrific, but failed to propose anything. You're now promising something better, but Florida has more uninsured people than almost any other state. Why should Americans trust you more than any other Republicans who've disappointed them on this issue?
Well, I think we have millions of Americans who do not have access to affordable health care. And it's not just getting some type of card and Medicaid, because a lot of times they don't even get access to doctors. You actually get access to care. The other thing is we have millions and millions of people who don't have access to good doctors and good hospitals. Florida did not expand Obamacare. I think the states that did that, I think are struggling financially. So that, yes, we declined to do that. And I don't think that that was the right policy to do. But we are going to go after the cost. You're paying too much for everything. We've actually addressed this in Florida in some ways, but you need price transparency. You need to hold the pharmaceuticals accountable. You need to hold big insurance and big government accountable. And we're going to get that done. I think it's very, very important economically. I think it's very, very important for the country that we get that done.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to, this is a very personal issue to our family. I wanted to take actually a minute to recognize my wife who's here today. Badass surgeon. She did a bunch of cases with cancer survivors earlier today, flew here to be tonight. We'll be back at 7 a.m. in Columbus, Ohio tomorrow, taking care of those patients in the OR. And on the front lines of people who have actually not swallowed for years. And here's something that's awful that's happening in our healthcare system. They'll pay for anything like feeding tubes, doctors to be pill pushers, but for the procedures that can actually make these patients better, we have a broken healthcare system that doesn't pay for it. My wife, Apoorva, in many cases, does not get paid for those procedures. She does them anyway because it's the right thing to do. But that does not work system-wide. So here's the answer. We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sick care system. We need to start having diverse insurance options in a competitive marketplace that cover actual health. preventative medicine, diet, exercise, lifestyle, and otherwise. And here's how we deliver that.
This guy.
End the antitrust
I know you guys don't
exemptions
trust him.
for health insurance
He says stuff
companies.
a lot better than
That's where the
most of them.
competitive marketplace begins.
Next
That's crony
question's for you.
capitalism, and that's the answer.
Okay, through Operation Warp Speed, the Trump administration and private industry developed a COVID vaccine in record time.
Zach, that's not me. What? I told you it wasn't me. None of you believe me when I said it wasn't me. Y'all like, yeah, it's you for sure, Joe. Oh, gosh. Right when I got rid of all my other tabs, y'all like, close your tabs, Joe. Close your freaking tabs, Joe. Close your tabs, Joe. We don't want your tabs. Got too many tabs, Joe. This is why I have so many tabs. This is why. I still hear that music in my head. Get that music out of my head. Oh my God, it's very annoying. I still hear it in my head. Let's see this.
In the way that they were. And
let's go back.
In general, I don't think that we should want capitalism and democracy to share the same bed anymore. It's time for a clean divorce. Let companies be companies, but I don't like the crony capitalism. This dates back a long time in both parties. And I think that we need to end the lobbying. And I personally believe that if you have been working in the government, you should not lobby that government for 10 years. If you have been a government elected official doing deals with companies, be they Boeing or be they pharmaceutical companies, you should not join the board of that company for 10 years after. The former chairman of the FDA, the leader commissioner of the FDA, ended up on the board of Pfizer. Nikki Haley did deals with Boeing, ends up on the board of Boeing. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. We need some basic principles that end the corruption in government. That's how we got the health insurance exemptions. That's how we got the pharmaceutical product liability exemptions.
thank you.
We end the corruption.
We need a reckoning for what this government did during COVID-19. That includes the mRNA shots. They put it out. It was experimental. People wanted it. Then the government started trying to mandate it, to say you don't have a right to put food on your table if you don't take an mRNA shot that was under emergency use. They tried to take nurses away. Now in Florida, we blocked that. We provided protections for everybody so that they wouldn't lose their job. You also have the FDA approving an mRNA shot for 6-month-old babies. There was no data to support that. They're doing it because big pharma will make money. So I'm going to go in there, CDC, NIH, FDA. We're going to clean house. There's going to be a reckoning because right now nobody's been held accountable for any of the damage. And they're going to try to do it again. When I'm president, this will never happen to our country ever again.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. And we will be right back in just a few moments for our closing statements from our 4 candidates at the Republican primary debate.
I need more bookmarks. I need way more bookmarks. All right. I went straight to News Nation itself. That was the way to do it. They don't let me go back, though. That's the problem. They don't let me go back in time, which is very annoying. Very, very annoying. Because I like to go back in time. Yeah. And, this is what I want to say. Julie, I get what you're saying. A lot of people have this attitude when it comes to Vivek. That he feels like a used car salesman. And maybe he is. I don't know. I'm simply saying, at least he's trying to sell me a car that is coming equipped with the features I'm looking for, as opposed to these other ones who are basically trying to sell me on stuff that I know I don't like. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he is full of garbage. Maybe he's a big fat liar. Maybe he just understands what to say better than the rest of these folks. Okay. What makes you think he won't follow through? Like, what's your reason to say that he's definitely not going to follow through in what he's promising? At least he's claiming that that's what he intends to do. Look, and I'm not trying to sell any of you on Vivek. Frankly, at this point, I think anyone trying to sell you on anything other than Trump is selling you on a loser. So I'm not going to try and sell you on Vivek. I'm simply saying I see so much. You're not alone, Julie. I'm pulling your comment up because I think it's indicative of the way a large percentage of people think and feel about him. So it's not you individually I'm talking to, Julie. I'm talking to a lot of people in the audience. And I'm not here to tell you that he's being truthful. I don't know that he's being truthful. What I do know is that the messaging that he has embraced is much more consistent with my values than any of these other candidates that are on the stage with him or have been on the stage with him at any time. I'm being real with you. I'm being real with you. So you're saying that so the implication is that he's telling me something, but he's never ever going to do any of this stuff. I don't know. At least he's claiming he will. None of the others are even claiming it. All the others are like, let's go to war with Ukraine so that somehow will win a war with China and Taiwan, or let's go after Trump, or DeSantis promising that he's going to pass the same laws for the country that he passed in Florida, even though we all know that there's zero chance that he will get that through Congress. So, I mean, none of these are answers. None of these are like things that like we can actually have confidence will ever happen that will benefit America in the long term. So is Vivek telling me the truth? I don't know. Every word that comes out of his mouth might be a lie, and he might be a used car salesman, and he might be selling me a whole bill of goods and then come through and deliver something completely differently. I'm just wondering, like, why would that be his motivation? What's the objective? Why would he say, oh, okay, I said I'm going to do all this stuff, but I'm going to do absolutely none of it? Why? Like, so you get to power and then do what? And then be another Chris Christie? Then be another Nikki Haley? Then be another Ron DeSantis? Like, what is he going to become? Do you think he's going to be, all of a sudden he's going to snap his fingers and it's going to be able to take off the mask and it's going to be AOC under there? I mean, what do you think he's going to do? See what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand this crazy. I'm not saying crazy. Not the word. I don't see the overwhelming, terrified fear that people have. And again, I'm not trying to talk you out of Trump. Trump's your deal. I get it. I'm there with you. I'm right there with you. I'm thinking not 2024. I'm thinking 2028. I'm thinking 2028. Do I plan on voting for Vivek in the next primary? Oh, there's very, very, very little chance that that's going to happen. There would have to be serious health issues with Trump for me to actually go down that road. Serious health issues. I'm simply saying, you're looking at like who's like, option two. I don't understand how we come to something that's other than Vivek. Most Band Queen says, thanks to TikTok, China now knows I'm the rare conservative single with 42-year-old single white 42-year-old female with a cat that has claws that will gut them like a fish. Whatever shall I do? That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I like that. I like that. Julie says, Vivek has started saying what Kennedy has been saying for years. Oh, let's get to this.
Your own presidency and why?
I would draw inspiration from Ronald Reagan. In the last year, I've spent a lot of time writing a book about President Reagan.
I know Ronald Reagan. You ain't know Ronald Reagan.
That book's
Ronald Reagan would never endorse anything that you said.
And what I learned more than anything else,
when he hears that,
Ronald Reagan was a slave to the
shut
truth.
up. Shut up.
Ronald Reagan stood up for the truth, whether it was popular or unpopular at the moment. In 1964, he stood up against the John Birch Society when it was very unpopular to the party to do it. But he would not put up with our party standing for lies and deceit, even if it gave him political progress. That's the kind of president that I will be, and I would draw that inspiration from the 40th president of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
Ambassador Haley?
Well, I have to say, too, I think George Washington, when you look at the responsibilities he had of how do you go and take on this great American experiment, and make sure that the people are protected. And they always knew that government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. And then you look at Abraham Lincoln, and you look at the challenges, and you look at the division that happened in our country, and the ability to lead in spite of the loud noises and say, what will bring out the best in people to get us to go forward is always something that's important. And I think we need that now more than ever.
Governor DeSantis.
Reagan, Washington, Lincoln, excellent. One of the guys I'll take inspiration from is Calvin Coolidge. Now, people don't talk about him a lot. He's one of the few presidents that got almost everything right. He understood the proper role of the federal government under the Constitution. We need to restore the U.S. Constitution as the centerpiece of our national life. And that requires a president who understands the original understanding of the Constitution, who has a good sense of the Bill of Rights, and who knows how we've gone off track with this massive fourth branch of government, this administrative state, which is imposing its will on us and is being weaponized against us. So Silent Cal knew the proper role of the federal government. The country was in great shape when he was president of the United States, and we can learn an awful lot from Calvin Coolidge.
Over to you, Mr. Ramaswamy, to conclude our history lesson.
Sure. Well, I will say Ron picked a president who was born on July 4th. I'll pick one who died on July 4th. It's Thomas Jefferson. He was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And you all are sitting on a swivel chair today. He invented the swivel chair while he was at it, while writing that Declaration of Independence. That's that founding spirit that we miss, that we're the pioneers. We're the explorers, the guy who sent him out on the Lewis and Clark expeditions. And I think a lot about what would Thomas Jefferson say to today's Republican Party. And I think one thing he'd remind us of, we haven't talked about it as much tonight, but I think it is one of the interesting ideological discussions we're having in our party is freedom of speech. You get to express your mind freely, no matter how heinous the opinion. Thomas Jefferson understood that.
All right,
He's an inspiration
thank you, sir.
me.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. And believe it or not, it's time for closing statements. Governor Christie, would you like to begin?
Sure, thank you. I want you all to kind of picture in your minds Election Day. You'll all be heading to the polls to vote. And that's something that Donald Trump will not be able to do because he will be convicted of felonies before then, and his right to vote will be taken away.
Loser.
You know, here's the bottom line. You can boo about it all you like and continue to deny reality. But if we deny reality as a party, we're going to have 4 more years of Joe Biden.
You're ushering in.
When my colleagues here raised their hands and said they would support him, even if he was a convicted felon, the bigger problem with it is they were confirming the lies he's told to the American people. If you're too timid to take on Trump, believe me, others will see that timidity. Xi, Putin, and the Ayatollah, the border crossers on the southern border, and the criminals in our streets. They'll sense that timidity, and they'll take advantage of that failure of leadership. We need to get back to an old American idea that every person is responsible for their own conduct, even a president. I'll be the kind of president who has the humility that knows that you work for the people.
You're a loser.
It's not the other way around.
Oh, yeah. The humility is
I will earn your trust. I want to earn your vote.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Mr. Ramaswamy.
Loser.
I'll use this to just address a topic we didn't talk about tonight, but I think is one of the most important topics that needs to be discussed. That is this climate change agenda that is shackling this country like a set of handcuffs. I said it at the first debate, and I stand by it. The climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That's what we have to see. 98% reduction in the climate disaster-related deaths in the last century. 8 times as many people are going to die of cold temperatures this year than warm ones. Yet against that backdrop, there's an issue coming up in Iowa. It's core to Iowa farmers. I met Kim Junker, Kathy Stockdale, and other farmers who are about to have a carbon capture pipeline built across their land using eminent domain to do it. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. And if you thought COVID was bad, what's coming with this climate agenda is far worse. We should not be bending the knee to this new religion. That is what it is. It is a substitute for a modern religion. We are flogging ourselves and losing our modern way of life, bowing to this new god of climate, and that will end on my watch.
Thank
it's
you,
the most critical
Ambassador
issue
Haley.
that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our country is in chaos. We see it on the southern border. We see it in on our streets in our cities. We see it on college campuses. We feel it with our economy, with inflation and with debt. and we feel it around the world with wars in Europe and within the Middle East. We have to stop the chaos, but you can't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. And that's what Donald Trump gives us. My approach is different.
Oh, very different.
No drama.
Kill everyone.
No vendettas.
Kill everyone.
No whining. I envision an America where we're protected from illegal immigration and Chinese infiltration. I envision an America where we unleash our economy and we reject socialism.
We unleash a
But more
military
importantly,
on anyone
I
who
envision
offends
an
us.
America where we rediscover our national purpose and our pride.
Thank you.
I crush Joe Biden in the
Thank you.
polls. And
Thank
if you
you.
give me this chance, we will crush him in November and take our
Thank
country
you,
back.
Governor.
Go to Nikki
Thank you, Ambassador Haley.
We are in jeopardy of being the first generation of Americans to leave to our kids and grandkids an America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. I refuse to sit idly by and let that happen. But we got to have people that are going to be willing to fight the people that are doing this to us. You can't be these establishment Republicans that just cave at the first sign of opposition. I'll fight for you. We also need to win again as a party. Yes, win the election, which we've struggled to do, but also win on these big issues. And nobody has defeated these people more than what I have done in the state of Florida on issue after issue. We have won, and we have won big, and that's what we'll do for you. We also need leadership. Leadership is not about doing what's easy. It's about being willing to set out that vision, knowing they're going to shoot arrows at you. They're going to come at you. I will fight the good fight. I will keep the faith, and I will finish the race. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, all of you. Thanks to all of you.
Wow. Well, that was a disaster. I mean, it was enjoyable. I'm simply saying. Those hosts. That was bad. Watching him waddle across the stage.
And just like that, the state of the race has changed. I do hope we hold this shot for a moment. Sometimes you get to learn something. You saw Governor Christie go up and shake hands with Nikki Haley. She seemed to say something nice to him. A little bit of an exchange with Desantis, polite enough.
Good.
Nobody going up to Ramaswamy. Not a surprise after what we saw here. And that is it. You are looking at the end shot of the last Republican primary debate before the all-important Holy Day season, when Nikki Haley and the three gentlemen will now have to go back and tell people, you saw me on the stage. I am the one. If it's not Trump, then it's me. I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you so much for staying with us here.
All right, Chris Cuomo. All right, Chris Cuomo from News Nation. Wow. I don't know why. Tell me, someone walk me through. Why do we need an audience? Why can't we just have the moderators and them? Because the audience, it feels like it's like we're going to stock the audience. They're not reacting. They're not responding to like how powerful anyone is. It's clearly they walk in there with a certain level of partisanship and they just want to cheer for their hero. And I don't understand how that enhances rather than detracts from the overall debate. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe someone can walk me through it and explain to me why it is I need to be told like some sheep when I'm supposed to clap and cheer as opposed to knowing, as opposed to being able to watch it. Like I need to hear like 4,000 people whooping and hey! Like why? It's like some 1980s sitcom where I need to have the canned laughter behind me. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's such outdated thinking. I'd much rather have the moderators in there. And can we have moderators who actually can ask a normal question? I thought that Megyn Kelly was fine. I had no problem with her. The other two the other two yokels on her side, oh my God, they were just annoying. Some really weak questions out there. So that's the debate. I think Nikki actually had her worst debate today. Christie, I like that he's ending his political career to booze. That was nice. That was really, really nice. I think Ron did pretty well. He actually had moments where he seemed like, there was that he wasn't made out of plastic. A moment here or there. But he continually looks to me like he's trying so hard to sound strong and tough. And it's like whenever I see him, not because of lying, but I will say I keep hearing my brain, I'm a real boy. That's what I hear when I see him. I'm just like, and what he's claiming are the bases as to like how he'll get things done. It shows a mindset of someone who has been coddled by his legislature into getting things passed that he will never ever see that type of coddling from a federal Congress. The United States Congress is never going to go along with all these different things that he's saying he's going to do. And if they're not going to go along with it, nothing is going to happen. It's all just empty promises of like, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen next. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Look, obviously this is all against the backdrop of who's next after Trump. And it seems inconceivable that Trump is not going to win the primary. I mean, the dude right now, if you pull up, I had 538 pulled up here, okay? Which I'm not a huge fan of their polling. But, you know, if we look at their polling numbers, I think Trump was like at 59% or something like that. I mean, he's like seriously has 5 times for every voter who's voting for DeSantis, there are 5 people who are voting for Trump. That's an astonishing lead. An astonishing lead. Let me pull up the actual poll numbers here for you. Here we go. Latest polls. Who's ahead in the Republican primary? I mean, look at this. The purple is Trump there. So they have 45-22 according to Trafalgar. 66-13. I mean, come on. 67-12. 67-11. I mean, it's 61-10. 75-25. I mean, this is like what are they even doing? Like, what are they even doing? So yeah, I don't think that any of these people have any shot at all. I mean, he would literally have to start like, I don't know, like he would have to have serious health issues and or like literally start singing some Adolf Youth type of song or something like that. Start singing Edelweiss and say, I think our new national anthem should be Edelweiss. That's the only way that Trump loses this primary. Eden's Vision says, good evening, Mrs. Good Logic. Hey, Joe, treat Our Lady with extra love. She shares you with us often. Emoji, 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 plus emoji, 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 plus emoji, emoji, 4-2, 4, emoji, and emoji. I'm on it. Thank you. Yes, this I had pulled up earlier. So Julie says, Vivek has started saying what Kenny has been saying for years. Healthy foods, the CO2 in Iowa, and eminent domain. RFK Jr. talked about Iowa State Fair when Vivek was playing footsie with governor there. I'll tell you this, Julie. I'm going to tell you. I can understand someone, even a conservative saying that they kind of like RFK. I get it. Most people who are hardcore conservatives are not crazy about his gun policies, his stance on America from the Second Amendment. Maybe that's wavered. I don't know. Whenever I hear his wife Cheryl talk, I cringe and I'm just like, oh my God, she's crazy. But I like a lot of the things that RFK says, a lot of the things that he says. So if you tell me that you had your ranking over there as you said, I don't dislike Vivek, by the way. I like RFK, Trump, and Vivek in that order. Okay, I get that. I get it. I can see someone coming to that conclusion. Lost in Loss says Vivek reason he does not pin his stance on moral principles. Oh, this is why people don't like Vivek. He takes the easy target, refuses to go even one step further. Example, crypto talk. These chats are too short. Wish you could expand. Okay. We can all agree, Chris and Faye. You're very welcome, Jenny. You're very, very welcome. You're going to slide into my DMs with a question? Is that what's happening? You're sliding into my DMs with a question? Let's go. Sliding into my DMs with a question. All right, I'll pull that up here while we look at what Tam's saying. You know, I like Vivek, but Desantis is growing on me after the news and debate. He should just lean into being a nerd. It would make him more likable or relatable, I think. That's an interesting thought. I hadn't considered that, but I think that's actually not a terrible idea at all for him to basically say, embrace his nerddom. That's really not bad at all. That's not bad at all. I want to get into the whole McCarthy thing because I want to have a discussion with you guys about McCarthy's resignation and my thoughts on that. I don't see my DMs anywhere here, Let's go. So I don't know what you're talking about. Unless you have something new. Yeah, I don't see you sliding. I don't see it here anywhere. So I'm not sure what you're referring to, brother. Okay. But my thoughts about this debate are that I think Vivek had his best debate today. I think that he's finally starting to resonate with people. And I'm curious who you guys think is the next one to drop out of the race. I would assume it's going to be Christie. I don't think Chris Christie is long for this race. I think that he was here just to make his points on the debate stage against Trump, and I don't think he's actually going to make it to the primaries. That's my thoughts. I don't see him making it to the primaries. I don't know how he has 2.9%. That's kind of aggravating. Which just says, I'm so angry with Christie and more so Haley. My blood pressure is sky high, and this is entertainment for my pleasure. I'm sorry, Wistasha. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Your blood pressure come down when you realize that none of these folks are ever going to have any kind of job, and they're never going to have any say in foreign policy. Thank God. Oh my God. Thank God. Can you imagine how terrible that would be? Disaster. Just an utter disaster. All right. So I want to talk about McCarthy's claim that he's going to resign at the end of this term. So I'll pull this one up. Oh, stop it. Who's this from? Wait a second here. My link kind of got messed up. All right, let's pull this up. Kevin McCarthy. Resignation sparks fears of Republicans dying. Fears of them dying. Conservative leaders are fearful that House Republicans could lose their razor-thin majority in 2024, given the chamber's elderly members. Let me tell you something. I don't know if this is actually true or this is just Newsweek's classic leftist spin on things. If you are losing seats, if the Republican Party, with this disastrous manner of this country being run, if there's any sort of legitimate fear that the Republicans are going to lose party, that is the saddest statement in the world. There is no way you should be losing seats. No way. The fears spread on Wednesday after Kevin McCarthy, a California Republican and former House Speaker, announced his plans to resign from Congress at the end of the year. Announcement culminated a tumultuous year that saw McCarthy struggle to gain the support of his Republican colleagues in January and then promptly lose his speakership 9 months later. I'm going to pause here. I just want you to just think about this for a second. I mean, really, really think about this, okay? This session started with McCarthy believing that he was going to be Speaker of the GOP, the Speaker of the House, for who knows how many years. Indefinitely. I mean, as long as the Republicans can maintain control of the House. That's what it starts with, and it ends with him resigning from Congress. This is so incredibly significant. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. At the start of this year, McCarthy thought that he would be the king Republican in the House forever, as long as he wanted. And before Christmas, he is signaling the end of his political career. What a phenomenal year this has been for MAGA. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's really, really unbelievable because he's a snake. He is a total dog snake. This guy, like, he operates behind the scenes, and we saw what he did with the when he was being replaced, and how he did all this lip service about, like, oh yeah, I'm going to support you, while having other friends of his skunk any chances that Jim Jordan have of winning the speakership, and skunk one person after another so that they would have to come back to him. And he's so two-faced and so gross and disgusting in the way that he actually says, he speaks. His tongue is so forked that he could seriously lick his nose and his toes at the same time while doing jumping jacks. It is disturbing how sick this individual is, and the fact that the Republican Party is getting free of this cancer metastasizing throughout our party is an amazing development. An amazing development. A handful of Republicans joined all House Democrats to oust McCarthy from the speakership in October after claiming they failed to deliver on a number of conservative policies while in power. McCarthy's announcement comes only days after the House voted to expel Republican George Santos last Friday, and with Republican U.S. Representative Bill Johnson's upcoming retirement, the party's majority is growing weaker. Now, I don't care. I don't care about that. That's fine. As long as they maintain the majority, that's fine. The now majority has already posed a problem for House Republicans who have played with infighting for months. No, it hasn't posed a problem. It's actually helped us. It's helped us fix it. It's been great. It's been amazing. Now Republicans are fretting over losing more members, particularly given the advanced age of some lawmakers in Congress. Getting rid of Ken Buck also. Another fine retiree. Adios, Kenny. Commentator Laura Loomis saw McCarthy's exit as beneficial for former President Donald Trump's Make America Great campaign, but she accused McCarthy of leaving on purpose to further diminish Republican majority and pointed out the House's old members. With Santos out, McCarthy and Bill Johnson retiring, the GOP are at serious risk of losing the majority. Loomer posted on X, formerly Twitter, on Wednesday. That's what they want. When you think about how many of them are old and could pass away at any moment, the GOP could very well lose the majority sooner or later. They did this on purpose to hurt Trump. I don't know what that means, Laura. She barks a lot. She barks a lot. I mean, we should be picking up 30 seats come next November. That's what should be happening. You're sitting here worrying about keeping a majority. That's sad. I mean, this country's going down the tubes. Why the hell is everyone voting for Democrats come November 24? I don't see that. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Georgia Republican, also voiced her concerns about the lives of House Republicans given the party's narrow majority. Well, now in 2024, we'll have a one-seat majority in the House of Reps. Green's posted on X. I can assure you Republican voters didn't give us the majority to crash the ship. Hopefully no one dies. Maybe they should bring back Santos. What do you think? Maybe you shouldn't be throwing out members of the Republican Party when you have like a four-person lead. In 2024, each one of the 435 seats in the House of Representatives will be up for election, given the two terms. Thank you for enlightening your moronic audience that doesn't realize that they come up for election every 2 years. In 22, Republicans gained a 222-213 majority with Democrats. Although the outcome of the midterm elections was not the red wave that many Republicans predicted, the GOP lawmakers hope to flip the Senate in 24 while maintaining control of the House, giving the majority in both congressional chambers. 33 of the U.S. Senate's 100 seats are up for election in 24, 10 of which are held by Republicans, 3 by independents who caucus with Democrats and caucus with Democrats, and 20 seats are held by Democrats. There's also a special election to fill Republican Ben Sass's seat. U.S. senators serve 66. It's like, thank you. Like, they assume that their audience is so stupid that they have to explain to you, no, so in the Senate they serve for 6 years, that we need to enlighten you because we assume that you're too stupid to actually know how long a senator serves. God. That's who they're tailoring. That's who they tailor their information to. I guess most people with the brain don't bother actually. They see Newsweek and they're like, oh, okay, I don't need to read a Teen Vogue or Newsweek. Maybe Newsweek can give me beauty tips. That's going to come next. I'm going to get beauty tips from beauty tips from Newsweek. That's what I need. I need beauty tips from Newsweek. I can only watch these debates with you. I couldn't stomach them otherwise. Thank you for covering. You're very welcome, Chicago Jan. Very, very welcome, Chicago Jan. I appreciate you guys watching with me. Those emojis mean nice dinner out, shopping for a fancy date in the best clothes, trip for two, somewhere relaxing to capture the first love romance. Oh, we're like on like fourth wave, maybe fifth wave, sixth. We're on 14th wave romance right there. There you go. What's a dog snake? I didn't call him a dog snake. Did I call him a dog snake? It's possible. When I'm thinking about McCarthy, I kind of lose it a little bit there. Okay, so the next story I wanted to cover with you guys here, which I think is important, and I haven't pulled this up yet. I just saw the headline. It was shared with me on Locals, which is at goodlogic.locals.com, and I think this is an important story because this should be terrifying all of us. This is how our government hates us. Silence all the dissenters. Silence them. And we're seeing this come out of Nevada. GOP fake electors indicted for falsely claiming Trump won the state's 2020 election. 6 Republicans are accused of falsifying records and each face 2 felony charges. This is the same thing we saw coming out of Michigan, right? I think it was Michigan. I'm pretty sure that it was Dana Nessel over in Michigan, a crazy attorney general, no less sick than Christie, who's a freaking lunatic. But at least Dana Nessel has the excuse of being a Democrat. What's Chris Christie's excuse? I don't know. Maybe he needs more Snickers. Like he only had a bucket full of Snickers today. He's still feeling hangry. A Nevada grand jury has indicted 6 Republicans, including the chair of the Nevada Republican Party, who falsely pledged Nevada's electoral votes for Donald Trump following the 2020 election, despite President Joe Biden's victory in the state. Purported victory. Alleged victory. I don't know why they left this out. His purported victory in the state. AG Aaron Ford, a Democrat. Surprise. I wouldn't have thought it would be a Democrat. It could. The truth is, sadly, these days it could be someone who identifies as a Republican. Announced the indictments Wednesday because it's so timely. He just jumped right in there on it. He just learned about these 6 electors who signed off on that. He had to. Why is all this stuff happening now? Why did it take 3 years for all these crimes to come to light? Announced indictments Wednesday of State Party Chair Michael McDonald, National Committeeman Jim DeGraffenreid, Clark County Republican Party Chair Jesse Law, who's running for state assembly on Wednesday. He's running for state assembly. I see what's happening. I see. State Party Vice Chair Jim Hindle III and Sean Meehan and Eileen Rice. In press release, the AG's office said all 6 individuals have been indicted on 2 felony charges, offering false instrument for filing. I'm trying to pull that up. And uttering something evil in a false god. Sorry. What does uttering a forged instrument mean? I know what forged instrument means. Uttering? I've never even heard of uttering used in that context. Is that really what they call it? Oh, look at that. That's what Nevada calls it. What was it? It was 10, right? Making, uttering, or possessing with intent to utter a fictitious bill. Uttering a forged document. Every person, so they define uttering here? They define uttering? Is that part of your definitions? That you define? They don't define uttering. All right. What do you got? Every person who knowing the same to be forged. Let me make this bigger for y'all. Gosh. When I make it bigger, everything disappears. Every person who, knowing the same to be forged or altered, and with intent to defraud, shall utter, offer, dispose of, or put off as true, or have his or her possession with the intent so to utter, offer, dispose of, or put off any forged writing, instrument, or other thing, the false making, forging of, altering, which is punishable as forgery, shall be guilty of forgery, the same as if the person had forged the same. You need the intent to defraud. You see, this is the whole thing. This is what we saw with Dana Nessel. This is what's so aggravating. The whole intent to defraud. Intent to defraud, in the concept of defrauding, is somebody, there is a dupe, a victim, someone who is ignorant, that does not have the same knowledge of facts that you have. That is what is necessary in order to have fraud ever. Fraud has to be, I'm attempting to trick someone for my own purposes or benefits. And this is what's so aggravating about these empty, stupid charges, is that it's not like these 6 electors from Nevada were like tricking anyone. Everyone knew that they were doing it in order to sort of log their votes in case things would work out later. No one was thinking, oh, Congress is not going to have any idea what's happening here. We're going to trick Congress. And they're going to think that it's that this is something that everyone signed off on. So aggravating. What was the first one? Instrument for filing. Offering a false instrument for filing. What's your? Let me see what your number is on that. 2, 3. Except as otherwise provided in subsection 2. Person knowingly procures or offers any false or forged instrument to be filed, registered, or recorded in any public office, which instrument, if genuine, might be filed, registered, or recorded in public office under any law of the state, is guilty of category C felony. Category C felony. So this I can understand. This I can understand being technically a violation. I still think that they shouldn't be charged. I think it's ridiculous that they're being charged, but at least I can understand how this one, they feel like they meet the elements, and seeing as how they want to go after them, I can understand how they would think that, okay, check off all the elements here. What are the elements? You knowingly offering something that's false, which I don't know if they thought it was false at the time, or forged instrument to be filed, which, if genuine, might be filed, registered, recorded in public office under any law of this state or the United States, so it's federal. You know, that if you're looking to file it on a federal level, that would be considered a state offense. You're guilty of a category C felony. What is category C? Category C felony is felony which they want to give you 1 to 5 years. This is so evil. This is so evil. This is, let's silence all of the dissenters. Silence them! Silence them! So those are the 2 charges there. What was the first? What was the punishment for the first one here? Guilty of the forgery as if you forged same. Not really clear exactly which level of felony this would be. All right, well, maybe we'll cover that later. In a press release, the AG said all 6 individuals were indicted on those 2 felonies by submitting fraudulent documents to state officials. Charges carry penalties of category C and D felonies, all right, respectively, with punishments up to a maximum of 4 and 5 years in prison and a minimum of 1 year in prison. Sick, sick, sick world that we live in, where every Justice Department seems so weaponized that we're seriously falling into a banana republic. People, and they're so stupid in their hunger and zeal for this. When the efforts to undermine the faith in our democracy began after the 2020 election, I made it clear that I would do everything in my power to defend the institutions, our nations, and our state. Oh yeah. Well, so where were you for the last 3 years? Why is this first coming up now, Mr. Ford? We cannot allow attacks on democracy to go unchallenged. These indictments are the product of a long and thorough investigation. We couldn't figure out what happened. We had no way of knowing that this happened. It took us 3 years to dig into this. My God. Imagine if someone gets kidnapped there. It probably takes them 14 years to find them. 3 years to come forward with these charges. As we pursue this prosecution, I'm confident our judicial system will see justice done. Justice would see you out in your ass. That's basically what justice would say. If there was justice, justice would see you publicly shamed for being such a partisan hack, Mr. Ford. Ford's office has scheduled a press conference on Wednesday afternoon, but postponed it because of an active shooter situation on UNLV's campus. Spokesman for Ford declined an interview request, saying the press conference would be held later. Rice, McDonald, and Law did not immediately respond to phone calls or voicemails. The Hindle and de Graffenfried did not respond to email requests, and Meehan declined. No one wants to talk to these folks here. Here's Ford, Aaron Ford. Disturbing, man. News in Nevada-based probe in the election of fake electors first emerged in mid-November. Why? Why are we first hearing about this 3 years later? It's literally 3 years after the election. Why? Why are we first hearing about this now? And it escalated after reports that a former attorney for Trump had agreed to meet with officials conducting the investigation. Oh, I wonder who the former attorney for Trump is. Who's that? Who's that? A former attorney for Trump. You got a name? That was kind of cheese, bro. Man, these rats are jumping ship. Jumping ship. Oh, my God. Under Nevada law, a charge for filing false documents must come within 3 years of the offense. I mean, the charges brought under that law need to be filed by December 14th. Oh, my God. On that day, six electors held a symbolic ceremony outside the state legislature to cast their electoral votes for Trump, coinciding with the day the state's actual electoral votes were cast for Biden. This group of unauthorized electors submitted fraudulent election documents to National Archives, a coordinated move with slates of fake electors in other states and Trump's presidential campaign as they tried to block Congress certification of election results on January 6, 2021. Nevada's purportedly fake electors, I mean, I guess they are because they weren't endorsed by their governor, so that probably makes them fake electors, refer to themselves as the duly elected and qualified electors in paperwork submitted to the National Archives, while at least two groups of people who cast fraudulent electoral votes in other states, New Mexico and Pennsylvania, included caveats in their paperwork saying the votes would only count if they won trials surrounding the 2020 election. Information surrounding the grand jury was not made public until the indictment because grand jury proceedings are secret and because these slimy bastards were like, oh, if we're going to do this, we need to do this now. During a grand jury, a prosecutor presents evidence to the jury members via witnesses and documents. Defendants usually do not testify during the process or respond to the evidence provided, and jury members decide via majority vote whether or not to issue an indictment. Typically, grand jurors hand out an indictment, but the law does not require members to find probable cause that a crime was committed, which makes you question why we need this in the first place. Ford's first formal move to bring a case to trial surrounding the so-called false electors, a deviation from his previous stance. The statute said that state statutes did not directly address the conduct in question. So all of a sudden now he changes his tune. I do wonder about this 239. 239. It does seem I can understand how it meets the technical definitions. Oops, come out there. Let's go to you. The bill passed out of legislature but was vetoed by Governor Joe Lombardo, who wrote in his veto message. Oh, wait, what was this? In 2023 legislative session, Ford urged state lawmakers to support SB 133, a bill that would establish a felony crime penalties for anyone who participated in creating false slated presidential electors, serving in a false slate, which this too is disturbing. Bill passed out of legislation but was vetoed by Governor Joe Lombardo, who wrote in his veto message that he agreed with the bill's efforts to secure elections but objected to the severity of the punishment. So let's think this through for a second. Let's think this through. So they want to punish slates of electors. So what are you supposed to do if this is all part of bending the knee to the state? Like anyone who objects to what the state, you have to go along with whatever the state's saying and just bend your knee to those who are in control. That's obviously a sign of a healthy a healthy republic right there. At least 2 other states, Georgia and Michigan, where Republicans submit fake elected slates Trump, have seen prosecutors bring charges against opponents. Arizona's Democratic Attorney General is investigating those participating in its fake elector plot. Well, there you go. There you go. That's a sad day. That's not very Christmassy. It's really not very Christmassy. Tomorrow is the start of Hanukkah. A lot of you might be wondering about my schedule during Hanukkah, and I'll tell you right now, my schedule during Hanukkah during the week will certainly be the same. I expect to stream every night of Hanukkah, except maybe Sunday night. I'm not sure about Sunday night, but probably even Sunday night, I expect to be streaming. Chances are very, very high. Very, very high that I'm going to be streaming during each one of these nights. I am curious about something else that was brought up, and this is something that Robin shared in Robin M. shared, Prospering Woman shared in Locals, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about this. And this is something that I don't even really want to weigh in on. I just want to get your thoughts as to whether you think there's something wrong with this. So apparently, Liz Cheney released a book wherein she's referring to President Trump and his supporters. She's trying to demean his supporters by calling him Orange Jesus. Orange Jesus. So, I'm very curious about your thoughts about this. I'm very curious about your thoughts about this. Somebody made a t-shirt. Fat Slice made a t-shirt. Which has Orange Jesus 2024. So I'm really curious to hear from those of you, especially those of you who are religious Christians, Catholic or Protestant, doesn't really matter. But I'm curious if you guys think that this is disrespectful. Do you think that there's something wrong with this? With having an Orange Jesus 2024 shirt? Do you think that that's disrespectful? I'm actually really curious. I'm going to make a poll. I want a poll. And this is a way of basically smacking back at Liz Cheney. And if you want, I'll actually include a link to it. Those of you who are interested in. But do you think that Orange Jesus, there's something wrong with Orange Jesus? I don't know. Allison's saying yes. It's disrespectful, but it's a free country. Funny and disrespectful. It's blasphemy. False idolatry. A lot of you are saying yes. A lot of you are saying yes. Let me see what you're saying in Rumble. Rivka says, I got Menorah Asset with some candles for while I'm VTubing Hanukkah. Oh, that's cool. I see a lot of you saying blasphemy and yes. That's what I thought. I thought a lot of you, I thought this would tick people off. I thought this would tick people off. I mean, I got my first no here. Janelle's saying not in the least. This is now I need a poll. I'm seeing so many mixed. Now I need a poll. Okay. Now we're creating a poll because I'm seeing a real mixed bag here. So I want to get numbers. My current poll, which says I hit like and subscribe like Christie hitting the buffet, 79%. And another 21% said I want all joy on earth to die. So that's not very nice. That's not very nice at all. My new poll is a t-shirt referring to Trump as orange Jesus disrespectful. Just have a simple yes, no. I'm very curious what you guys think on that one. Really curious. Let me see what else I had going on here in locals. Nope, got that. All right. Fresh you. Oh, okay. So a lot of you are pressuring me on this. A bunch of folks were asking me about covering this. So we change gears here. It is an interesting case that I want to throw at you guys here. Let me see how the other results are. All right, slight majority of you saying yes on the poll, but not as strong a majority as I thought it would be. Okay, so here's my question. Here's a case that's starting up. I don't know if it started today or it's starting tomorrow, because this says tomorrow, but it's dated December 5th, and today's the 6th. But here's a case that's starting up right now. So I read most of this, but not all of it on Twitter, because someone tagged me asking me to cover this case. So what was tweeted out, and this is an interesting Fourth Amendment rights case that I saw, and Andrea broke weighed in on. And it's basically about the stripping away, the steady erosion of our Fourth Amendment rights. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Los Angeles for oral argument on what may be the most important Fourth Amendment case pending in the United States today. The basic facts: the FBI broke open and searched hundreds of safe deposit boxes without any reason to think the box holders did anything wrong. U.S. Private Vaults, a business in Beverly Hills, offered a private and secure place where people could store their most valued, sensitive possessions. In March 21, FBI raids USPV, broke every single box in the vault, and looked through all the contents. FBI ran all cash in the vault by drug dogs. Yeah, I know, which they had this. That's kind of crazy. Opened the envelopes and photographed the contents, and ultimately sent everything worth over $5,000 to asset forfeiture, initiating proceedings to keep that property forever. That's crazy. That's crazy. Imagine you have a safe deposit box. FBI just comes and says, "Oh, we're taking that. We're taking that." That sounds crazy. FBI did all that pursuant to a warrant, but critically, the warrant specifically said that it did not authorize a criminal search or seizure of the safety deposit boxes. That was an important limitation. FBI had reason to think that USPV, the business, had violated the law, but the FBI had no basis for any individualized probable cause as to any box holders. So they think that the company that's holding it broke the law. So now they're going into these safe deposit boxes and taking that of people who are unrelated to the company that's holding it. And here's the attachment, which says that the items to be seized are business computers, money counters, nests of safety deposit boxes and keys, but does not authorize criminal search or seizure of the contents of the safety deposit boxes. FBI said, "We don't care. We don't care. We got it. We're opening them." The FBI, though, had what must have seemed like an evil genius plan. Warrant allowed the FBI to seize nest of safe deposit boxes, metal shell, which is the metal shell in which all the boxes are housed, and then once they took the nest, the FBI decided they would have to inventory all the contents. We got to know what we got here. We have to know what we got here. The inventory doctrine is a Fourth Amendment doctrine that allows for routine administrative searches or of arrestees or impounded automobiles. It's never in the history of the country been applied to a sweeping search of hundreds of safe deposit boxes, but no doubt FBI figured this is the first time for everything. Only problem is the search the FBI conducted was not an inventory. An inventory is supposed to safeguard property against claims of theft and loss. But here, the FBI was already planning to keep everything in the boxes. You're planning on keeping it, then using civil forfeiture. The FBI concocted its forfeiture plans months before the seizure, but it did not mention them anywhere in the warrant affidavit. So they basically said, oh, this is how we're going to take these safe deposit boxes. And they didn't mention that in the warrant. They're just like, oh, we need to get in there. We need to take that nest of boxes. Search also included features that had nothing to do with generating an inventory. They ran all cash over $5,000 by drug dogs. On what basis? I don't know. $5,000 because the FBI decided anything below that amount was not worth their time trying to forfeit. FBI opened envelopes and photographed sensitive personal documents found inside. Directed all the agents during the search to make observations designed to link property to drug trafficking. None of that had anything to do with preparing an inventory. This is crazy. This shows you how our FBI basically feels like we can do whatever the hell we want. We're super cops. We're super cops. There's no constitution for us. There's no constitutional limitations on us. We're the FBI. That's meant for the regular cops, not for us. All in all, the FBI sought to forfeit over $100 million in cash seized from the vault, plus untold millions more in gold, silver, and other valuable property. Unbelievable. Audacity. $120,000 from this account, $364,000 from that account, $1 million from this other account. Unbelievable. 700. Look at these numbers. Look at these numbers. You see that? This is the asset value. 100,000, 97, 726, 325, 4, $1 million, $1,000,003, $1,004, $1,008. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Chutzpah. Oh, and then there's also Cartier bracelets. Here's all the jewelry they took. Walking Liberty Gold, 1 ounce, $50 coin. 5 of those, 10 of these, 11 of those. They didn't like, we don't know what it's worth. We're just going to call it $1. Look at all of these assets they took. So IJ sued and largely thwarted the FBI forfeiture plans. Millions of dollars in property was ultimately returned. But now the FBI retains thousands of pages of records documenting the contents of the boxes, including legal documents, personal notes, financial records, health records. All of that is held in this Sentinel database, a database that, in the FBI's words, quote, can be used to identify connections between cases and patterns of activity. So this is how they got this seems so friggin' illegal. It's unbelievable, and may reveal previously unknown relationships among individuals and groups under investigation. And you might say, and here's the mistake that a lot of people will make that I want to clarify to you. This is the mistake that a lot of people make. They'll be like, well, if you're not doing anything illegal, why are you afraid? I am positive that some people who are watching this, maybe not you, but some people watching this are like, well, if you're not doing anything illegal, why are you afraid? You want to know why you're afraid? You should be afraid. Because if they're allowed to retain this, then they're going to go through your stuff and the next person's stuff, the next person's stuff. And that's how you basically have Big Brother having access on information about every single one of us, which is none of their damn business. So why is the case so important? Oh, I guess we'll see his perspective on it. The fundamental principle at stake is that the government wants to search and seize your property, it has to have some reason to think you did something wrong. FBI came up with a blatant scheme to circumvent that fundamental principle, and so far, no count has held them to account. If the FBI can get away with this here, it's a green light for the government to try the same ruse again throughout the country. And it's not just safe deposit boxes. Government could pull the same trick with storage lockers, hotels, even apartment buildings. But even more fundamentally than that, because I guess with apartment buildings, they could say like, well, if it's a co-op, it's owned by, and we have a problem with the co-op, so we'll pretend that we now have to go through every apartment inside that co-op. Even more fundamentally than that, the basic question here is whether there's going to be any consequence for an obvious attempt by a federal agency to circumvent the Fourth Amendment. Are there consequences for this kind of blatant disregard for constitutional rights? And if not, what kind of society we live in? It's a great thread. So people want me to cover this case. Oral arguments, I'd be more interested in that. I'm not sure if this is being held like as oral arguments in bench trial, or if this is something that there's going to be witnesses who are testifying. I'm much less interested in that element to it. But thank you for the super sticker, Mama 4. Appreciate that. And you too as well, Stephen Cooper. And Squeeze Guy says, Joe, did you hear about the FBI arresting a Arizona YouTuber for supposedly inciting an attack in Australia? Really? Really? No, I didn't hear about that. I did not hear about that. Really? How do you do that? All right, this is interesting. A reclusive online conspiracy theorist who was mentioned in a chilling video recorded by the killers of 2 Australian police officers in a brutal ambush at Queensland property has been arrested by the FBI. Going by the name Donald Day, 58-year-old man spent much of his time on YouTube posting videos about an extreme Christian ideology known as premillennialism. Tragically, the end-of-day religious messaging found a dedicated audience with Gareth and Stacey Train, who used it as inspiration for their murderous plot in December last year. In the wake of the horrible killing of Constables Matthew Arnold and Constable Rachel McCrow, as well as a Good Samaritan and neighbor, the couple filmed a YouTube video in which they sent a message to their apparent inspiration. They came to kill us, and we killed them. We'll see you at home, Don, Gareth said. Love you, Stacey added. In the clip, they referred to police as devils and demons. U.S. National sent his followers in Queensland the disturbing content for almost 2 years. So, what did he say? His YouTube account has since been deleted. In the comments section, one video, Day referred to the couple as his brother and sister, Guardian Australia reported. What did he say? What did he say? Another account declared his followers the fight was inevitable. We hoisted the black flag. No surrender, no mercy. They might all fight and die well. Okay. Almost exactly a year after the terrorist attack on the rural property of Wiambilla, west of Brisbane, the man identified as Donald Day has been arrested at a remote property in the state of Arizona. One of the 2 indictments issued against him relates to incitement of violence online connection with the Queensland attack. Queensland police on Wednesday said a 58-year-old had appeared in court and was in custody in the U.S. after a joint investigation led to his arrest. This is an interesting thing that I hadn't really ever considered. Let's say he broke the law under Australian concept, but not under American law. Should America be turning him over to someone, let's say, someone we have friendly relations with? I don't know. I got problems with that. I have real problems with that. Because that's basically, let's assume that he did not engage in incitement under the Brandenburg Standard of American law. But he engaged in incitement under the far less protective position of Australia, because Australia is pretty much Wild West. Should an American be held susceptible for taking actions here in America that motivates a third party in Australia, that he can now be held liable for that? That sounds like it's opening up a whole Pandora's box. Does that mean that if I say something here that is thoroughly legal to say here in America, if I say something in the next 30 seconds that would be illegal for me to say in someone else's country, that all of a sudden now I could be held liable by that country, and America would be in a position that it would feel obligated to turn me over to subject myself to the laws of that foreign state? That sounds very strange. That sounds very, very strange. Now, I don't know what he said. Maybe it would be considered incitement under American standards. I just don't like the idea that they should be turning anyone over unless there's a whole trial here, whether he broke American law. That's very unsettling. Man's motivation is still being investigated, but it's alleged Gareth Train began following the 58-year-old's YouTube account from May of 2020. Hey, if you're watching me right now, please don't think I'm telling you to harm anybody, because I'm all about no self-harm and no harming others. So that's where I'm coming from. Also, I'm just going to open up. What? I was just filming something on YouTube. For some reason, whenever the police knock on my door, I sound like a little girl. Oh, gosh. Then again, commenting on each other's videos a year later, Queensland Police Assistant Commissioner Cheryl Scanlon said, between May 21 and December 22, the man repeatedly sent messages containing Christian end-of-days ideology, Gareth, and then later Stacey. That doesn't sound like incitement under American standard. Trains also accessed the man's older YouTube account, which was created in 2014. So, we know the offenders executed a religiously motivated terrorist attack in Queensland. They're motivated by Christian extremist ideology. How is that incitement under American standard? Pre-millennialists hold an apocalyptic belief that the world will go through a period of calamities for the second coming of Jesus. There are currently no extradition orders for the 58-year-old man who is charged under U.S. law, but Assistant Commissioner Scanlon said it was early days. The Wiambia shootings were described as the nation's first domestic terror attack after luring police to the property dressed in camouflage fatigues. The heavily armed trains rigged motion sensors along the entrance to the property to warn them of police arriving before carrying out their attack. This should be very bothersome to every one of us. Is she? She's interviewing the candidates? Right. Yeah, I appreciate you calling that to my attention. Tam is always, she's always the one who's telling me, hey, Joe, do this. Hey, Joe. 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 You have a link for me? You got a link for me? You got a link? A linky link?
Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom. That is fascism.
Thank you, Tim.
Keep going, Michael.
I mean, that's about as ludicrous as it comes. I mean, this is something that we've expected from the left for a very long time. If you've watched MSNBC over the past 4 years and you've counted the times that the word fascism has been used and Donald Trump has become, compared to a Nazi, I don't love it. As he says, I don't like identity politics on the right when they do it on the left. I don't like fascism accusations on the right when it's so common on the left. He also kind of referred to her as a Stalinist, too, because he then invoked Orwell's 1984, which is obviously a book about Stalinism. So yeah, that Vivek that showed up early and
it's not exclusively about
like he was going to be the first debate, Vivek became even crazier than I had seen previously.
Yeah, no, second debate Vivek was the nice Vivek. Second debate Vivek was, I don't believe in personal insults. That's what he said. I don't believe in personal insults. What happened to that guy, Emily? He was not there. But you know what? He was handing out little golden nuggets to Core MAGA. That's what he was doing tonight. And I bet they ate up every single one of them. I haven't even looked at Twitter, but I'm guessing they ate up every one.
Well, I was going to say, actually, in a weird way, there's a benefit to having Vivek on stage because he really does represent Core MAGA in a way that even Ron DeSantis, who flirted with representing core MAGA, but then never really
What is
pulled it
core
off.
MAGA? Am I core
Doesn't.
MAGA?
And so
I think I'm core
kind of
MAGA.
pushing
I'm probably
candidates
core
on foreign
MAGA. I think
policy
I'm
in the
core
way that
MAGA.
Vivek does. Listen, I don't think it comes across as appealing, especially on a stage with 4 candidates. It was different when it was the pure chaos of 10 people on the stage screaming at each other incoherently. But when you have 4 people, you're constantly jumping in and being the loudest person in the room. I just think it's a lot harder to pull that same act off. I thought this debate felt like it had more gravity and seriousness to it, and he wasn't reading the room super well. And I should also say, I'm going to need a spicy margarita to fall asleep tonight after the vivid rendering of Vivek as Sybil that you just put in everyone's mind. Megyn, thank you.
I was referring to that as the Sybil question. I don't know what I'm getting, whatever.
It's funny you guys talk about the core MAGA, but I don't know whether he said this when he was talking to you.
Do you not realize that core MAGA is now 60%?
Behind us right now, and he's appealing to Ron Paul voters.
Yeah, he did mention Ron Paul.
So I think, and Michael, we're veering over into a libertarian space. So you can check me. You can check me up as we go. But
that's what I wanted.
So when we met Ron Paul
Let's see what we got
as
here.
2000.
I don't care about these idiots.
He's got
This way, that much. Cool. Perfect.
stage where I was co-moderating tonight's debate, and I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to share them with you in a minute. Plus, we'll get reaction from some of our Megyn Kelly Show favorites, Emily Jashinsky, Michael Moynihan, Tom Bevan. But we begin with one of the stars up there tonight, and that is entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. Welcome to the show, Vivek. Great to have you.
Good to be up, Megyn. How you doing?
Except for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I know on the stage I have to call you Mr. Ramaswamy, but I think I can call you Vivek here.
Yes.
Okay,
that
good.
works. I took my tie off, so that's where
Yeah, we're all relaxed now. How did you think it went? The overall debate?
I think
That's what it felt
good.
like,
I mean,
yeah.
I was pleased with it. I was fluid.
like that.
I didn't really have much restraint. And I think it's the first time we actually had real conversation between the candidates, but still actually being able to hear one another. So if we're going to set the bar that low, I think it was actually pretty much a success. I think there's some issues that we do need to discuss that we didn't get to in this debate that I think are deep ideological fault lines in the GOP primary. I think free speech is one of those issues.
That was one I was saying before we
Free
got
speech
started.
and foreign policy, those are the 2 big ones.
Free speech is on our list, but everything dies as a result of something else that lives.
We were a little too free with our speech, I think.
Well, but we wanted
take
to
the
let you
time,
guys
but yeah,
debate.
no, I
So
think it
it's
was
like that's why I was like, you have to strike the balance, right? Because otherwise, if we just stay rigid to our questions and get through every single topic, you guys don't get to debate each other.
That's right. That's right. And so I think in that sense, it was a good debate. And I think we do have some ideological divides in the GOP. I think the big ideological divide is, what do you think is America's approach to being the leader of the world? All of us agree that America should be that shining city on a hill. I'm of the view that it should be by being foremost strong at home. I think we have weakened ourselves by fighting these foreign wars in other parts of the world, that as we revealed on that stage tonight, many of them who are clamoring for going after defending some part of Ukraine don't know the first thing about the part of Ukraine they're actually arguing for.
You're right that people are starting to move more and more towards the position that you took early on.
Yeah, and I think it's a form of intellectual fraud on the American people, but I think that's one divide, number one. And then divide number 2 is, what do you have the right to say in this country? Do you actually have the right to engage in heinous speech or not? And I think we have candidates on both sides of that issue, but I'm a free speech absolutist, and I think those are the 2 main divides.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about that because you and I had our little exchange on Twitter.
I would have loved to have gotten some different opinions, but we can continue that
it's fine.
elsewhere as well. Yeah.
That's exactly right. All right, so let's talk about some of the big moments, because my impression from the debate moderator's seat was Christie came loaded for bear for you.
Yeah, he did.
Right? Were you expecting that?
I didn't really go in one way or another. I kind of got a kick out of it. And my view is that Chris Christie's foreign policy experience is, about as thin as it's going to get. And blockading that bridge from New Jersey to New York was,
as the seat of his pants.
The best example of it I could think of. And I think that Chris Christie would do this country a favor if he got out of the race. And so I think I didn't hold back in saying so.
Here's a little flavor of what we're talking about. SOT 1.
Let me just say something here. His reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen.
Promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's
not my deal. That's not my deal,
yes,
Chris.
it's exactly what you
I'll
said.
describe my
You do
deal
this
to
at
you.
every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't
I'll
interrupt
tell
me.
you
I
what the
didn't
deal is.
interrupt you. Okay? You
Tell
say
them
this.
about how you
You
want to send
do
our
this.
kids to die.
You
Go
do
for it.
this at
Ramaswamy.
every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you out on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to
I'll
say
tell you
what?
exactly
No,
what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
Well, this
now
is
look.
This is
and
now
here's
sounds
something.
is not a spirit.
I think Chris Christie has a comb over.
This is the fourth debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America.
Yes,
so shut up for a little while.
That's the title. He'll never rest away.
So he was gunning for you. What was that about? Why? Why you? Why you tonight?
Well, look, I think that he is very frustrated that he's not able to go after Donald Trump. There's two key America First candidates in this race. And as I said, there is a deep ideological divide in the GOP. So I think he's venting his frustration at Trump on me, and I can take it. I can handle the heat, and I responded to him accordingly.
How about the Nikki Haley moment? Nikki corrupt. That was big when you held that up.
Well, I think it is.
What was that about?
The heart of who she is and what she represents. I don't care about Republican versus Democrat. We need to end the corruption in D.C. I don't think you should be able to join the board of a company that you underwrote 9-figure deals while being governor of a state that did deals with that company. I don't think you should use your connections to start a military contracting firm after you leave the UN and then not disclose those clients. She's asked Donald Trump to release his tax returns back in 2016, joining Democrats to do it, yet now hasn't released her tax returns. I've released 20 years of mine. So I do think that Haley is fundamentally an example of the corrupt establishment. Biden has sold off our foreign policy to make their family rich in the form of that bribe to Hunter Biden. I think Nikki Haley's defense contractor is quite likely, if some recent reporting is to be believed, making money off of sales in the Russia-Ukraine war as well. The American people deserve to know that. And I think there's an intellectual fraud here where she professes this foreign policy experience that began in all of a cup of coffee stint at the UN, offering platitudes that were served up by political consultants since the 1980s, yet doesn't know the first thing about the regions she actually even wants us to fight for. And so I think it's an intellectual fraud. I think it's a financial fraud. And I do think that regardless of who leads this country, if you want somebody who's actually going to take on that corruption in D.C., you can't be part of it in the first place.
Okay.
And so I did want to speak to that directly tonight.
Let's shift and talk about free speech for 1 minute, because one of the things that we wanted to talk about was what's happening in these campuses. Eliana got to it a bit, and some of the testimony on Capitol Hill. But you and I had a dust up on Twitter the other month, because I understand the opposition to Ron Desantis trying to disband Students in Justice in Palestine. I get that.
And that's where I'm strongest.
I guess.
That's where I'm most strong.
I get it. And I agree. I've said on my show.
I didn't know where you were.
Yeah, okay. I don't agree with that move. But
because the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yes, there's this thing called the First Amendment. It's kind of pesky. And then there's this separate cultural debate that we ought to have that doesn't have to do with the law.
So that's where you and I diverged, because the Students for Justice in Palestine, days after the 10/7 attack, sent this letter saying it's entirely Israel's fault. It's all Israel's fault.
I mean, it's nonsense.
No, and I know you don't support
garbage.
that.
Yeah.
But then you had these lots of folks like Bill Ackerman and others who said, I want the name. I want every student who's in that group. And I said, right on, me too. As an employer, I would never hire somebody who signed that letter. And you were like, you said, we shouldn't be shaming students. We shouldn't be naming students like that. They're dumb kids.
Yeah.
And my thought is, they're about to go into America's biggest media companies and law firms, right?
So I'd say a couple things. One is very pragmatic in the reality of how college campuses function, and then the other is a cultural point. The way you're a member of a college student group is you actually just put your name on some student group list. Many of these people did not even know they were affiliating themselves with the state.
But then
so put that to one side, and I know you would probably agree with that.
You would be like, take me out of that group as soon as you saw them sign that letter.
I think the reality of, this is a really not terribly important point, Megyn, but if we're going to talk about it, let's just understand. I know many of those kids, I've talked to many of those kids on those college campuses. They actually have no idea whether they would count as members of the group or not, or whether the leadership of the group is saying something they have no say in actually determining it.
There's a very easy way of making that clear.
Then you have to disavow. Well, take me off your email list.
Yes.
And then it gets to a culture of what we want in our country. Do we want students signing up with groups even they disagree with? I did that when I was in college. And so it gets to the cultural question of not legally what would our founding fathers say, but actually you guys asked me on that debate stage, which president would you take inspiration from? And so let's just go through this.
And the swivel chair.
The original and the swivel chair was
That's a really interesting thought.
I don't think Thomas Jefferson.
That's a really interesting thought. Signing up for a club that you disagree with. Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that philosophy. You sign up for a club. Would I sign up for a club that's designed to fight climate change? No, I wouldn't do that. Why would people do that? I don't understand what he's saying there. I don't get that at all. So what? I can spy on them? I don't understand what that means. Why would someone be doing that? That's such a weird thing to do. That's such a weird take. You monitor the opposition. That's what Lost in Law is saying. Okay. Maybe. I don't know.
Would be on the side of saying that we want our universities and institutions of higher ed creating blacklists based on what a 19-year-old kid has or hasn't said.
Not a blacklist. It's
But
just,
it's absolutely-
it's just here's the names.
No,
It's
but
up to you.
that's absolutely
The
a
UN
blacklist.
will hire all those
for,
people.
for this one issue. Because then if we do it for this issue, we're going to be doing it for somebody who denied climate change, somebody who questioned the wisdom of using fossil
I don't
fuels,
think this is the same
somebody
deal.
who claimed that
There's a
J6
difference
was a-
between following someone whose views you disagree with and joining their club. Those are two different things. Although I should say this, I was registered as a Democrat long after I abandoned their anything related to Democrats, figuring like I wanted to be able to vote in Democratic primaries and basically skunk people who I thought were most objectionable. But there is like I had an objective. So the objective here is to spy.
Was actually an inside job or not. I think that people should be able to speak their mind freely on these topics. And I think once we go down this road, imagine if this was during the COVID pandemic.
I get it. You're saying slippery slope.
But I think the slippery slope is really part of what these free speech incursions, cultural free speech incursions are all about. If during the COVID pandemic, and I think you and I would probably be on the same side of this, if somebody questioned the safety and efficacy of vaccines, I think you have a lot of people on the other side to say, as an employer, I want to know that. If I'm in the healthcare industry, tell me which student did that because I don't want to hire them.
That's fine. I actually think this could lead to the better alignments with the students and their employers.
I think it leads to students being less likely to discover who they are and what they think.
Okay. All right,
and I think that we got to lead them rather than to
So
censor
talk to me about your plan, because your poll numbers have gone down in recent history, and one of the top guys in your campaign left and went to work for Trump, and there's a lot
It
of
was actually one of the top guys, as a side note,
Okay.
but we brought in
There's
someone
a-
above him and he moved. But I respect him. I don't want to be throwing
Okay.
people under the bus.
But respectfully, you're not
But
on
the polls,
track to
the
win.
polls are not on track to where they need to be for me to win this election yet.
Right.
That much
right.
is fair.
Or even win the undercard part of the election. So how long do you stay in this thing? What's the goal of this?
Oh, I think I'm not going anywhere. And I think to the contrary, I feel I have a responsibility to be in this race as somebody who is taking the America First movement to the next level. I do think we're going to deliver a surprise in Iowa. I think the media has done us a great favor of downplaying our expectations going into Iowa and New Hampshire. We're seeing a lot of people come into our events, like a lot, like not small numbers of people. Like the crowds we're seeing at our events do not match up to the narrative of where the public polling is at.
That's what happened to Trump.
And absolutely. And when you see many of those people at those events, though, many of them are coming with Ron Paul shirts. Many of them are first-time caucus goers. We're actually going to college campuses. I go to frat houses, and they have like massive events where people, I mean, I haven't been a celebrity for much of my life, but if you go to many of those young people, we're seeing something that I think Iowa has not seen for a long time. So if those people come to the caucus, I think we're going to shatter expectations on this, and I think that's going to propel us forward. Exactly.
I love that you fit some frat houses in on your busy campaign schedule. Good move.
Hundreds of them too, and these kids, and that's what I see in these kids is they're lost, but the conservative movement needs to lead them, and I think we can do that.
It's great to see you.
It's good to see you, Megyn.
Yeah, all the best to you.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
luck.
for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, that was fun. It's great to see him in person. We've known each other a long time, but we haven't done this in a
Interesting.
while. Joining me now, Emily Jashinsky. She's culture editor at The Federalist and host of the Federalist Radio Hour. And
Oh, neocon. That's why she's basically saying the idiocy that she's saying. Who's the other idiot?
Great job, Megyn. I mean, that was.
I know you've been Bill Moynihan, co-host of She's
Who?
culture editor at The Federalist and host of the Federalist Radio Hour, and Michael Moynihan, co-host of The Fifth Column. Guys, great to see you. I haven't gotten to talk to you, but I know you've been busy working here. What'd you think?
I want to get their initial thoughts.
Great job, Megyn. I mean, I thought that was easily the best of all the debates. I thought the pacing, by the way, was excellent because you got a broader scope of issues. And it was interesting, actually, with Vivek just now that you guys didn't get to some of the topics you wanted to get to, because that was the broadest range of issues that I've heard covered in any debate. And actually, like, it was very, very
Stop
impressive. how much was
brown-nosing.
brought
Get-
in.
oh my
I thought,
gosh.
personally, this
Wipe
looks
your
like a
nose.
two-way race between
Wipe
Ron
your nose.
DeSantis and Nikki Haley for the second place. So
You're
it's
an
really
idiot.
obviously a three-way race, as you often point out, Meg.
You're an idiot. Okay, she's an idiot. I can't listen to her. I can't. Maybe this.
Megan, but the
what
second
this
place
dude
is clearly DeSantis and Haley at this point. I also preferred having it down to the four candidates. I thought that really let them distinguish themselves in a way we haven't seen yet either.
Thank you for the kind words. Moynihan, what'd you think?
So do I have to offer the kind words too now? I mean, I have kind words. It was great. They were great questions.
You don't need kind words. Get to your
No,
other
I
thoughts.
mean, here, I don't need to butter you up, but they were great questions. I will say this. I will say about Vivek, who is just on, so I'll respond to him. And I'll be generous to start. It's always nice to be generous.
Oh my God, just say
I, like
it.
you, Megyn, think he is very, very good on free speech. He excels in that. And I think Ron DeSantis is absolutely off base when it comes to the execrable people in the Students for Justice in Palestine movement, the horrible things that they said. I thank God that they say them and they say them loud so I know who they are. And like Bill Ackman, I would never hire them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is with Vivek is that, you know, I understand why his unfavorables are so high after watching that debate. The one thing that really irks me, if he referenced Ron Paul at the end there, if he wants to be the Ron Paul of the new GOP, a little more aggressive. Trump, you know, he's like, he doesn't really care about foreign policy. He says, I keep you out of foreign wars. Whereas Vivek is much more ideological about it in the sort of Ron Paul way. But he makes an unbelievable mistake here when he attacks Christie and Nikki Haley with something that is not true.
Really?
He keeps on saying that they want to send your kids to die. I have looked for this. There is no such statement from either of them. They want to
the biggest war hawk
Ukrainians and the Israelis. You can disagree with that. That's absolutely fine. I have a lot of sense of that.
I thought he ended up with a better of that argument. He ended up with a better in the trans argument. He sounded very strong on foreign policy, which is really Nikki's bread and butter. That's where she's supposed to be at her best. So again, yeah, I think Nikki Haley has this idea that she's going to have momentum going into New Hampshire and then down to South Carolina, where Tim Scott is now out of the race. She's down to Donald Trump in both of those states, neck and neck with DeSantis in New Hampshire. I don't think this helps her in New Hampshire to the extent.
After you. But I appreciate that. That means we're winning. And so our goal was just to make sure we tried. I mean, look.
Guys, thank you. Joining me now, 2024 presidential candidate and former U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley. Great to have you, Ambassador.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
How did you feel it went?
It was fine. I mean, look, we knew that they were all going to start to kind of hit.
They were after you.
But I appreciate that. That means we're winning. And so our goal was just to make sure we tried to show that, look, they're fighting to go up, but we're continuing our momentum. We're going to continue to do well. We're second in Iowa, second New Hampshire, second in South Carolina. We got one more guy to catch up to, and that's what we're working on.
What did you think of, I mean, Vivek and DeSantis kept hitting you on the ties to the billionaires, the ties to the banks, corporate corruption. And, you know, our guest was just saying, in this Republican Party, is it really a defense to say, oh, well, you know, they're just jealous that I have all these donors and they don't?
It's true. These were all donors of Ron's, and they've left him because he's losing, and they've come to me, and now he's upset about it. It's just like the Americans for Prosperity. That's the most conservative grassroots network in the country, and he was hitting it, saying that they weren't great a couple of days ago. Well, he fought just as hard to get that.
Nobody's any more jealous than if the New York Times
when he was running for governor. So it's sour grapes for him. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, when you go
and the rest of America,
I've been a chief executive.
And for the rest of
I've been
America,
a governor. I know what it takes to take a state that has 11% unemployment and make it an economic powerhouse. I've dealt with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea every day that I was at the United Nations.
Let me ask you about the DEI thing, because they raised the, you know, it has a different name when it's in corporate America, but they were sort of saying companies like BlackRock, they invest in left-wing causes, and they're backing you, and they're going to somehow want you to do their dirty work, to you know, push left-wing causes, to sort of abandon the conservative movement.
They know I am completely against all the woke ideology, all the woke culture.
It's not just the woke ideology, it's the uniparty crap that you keep spewing.
Companies need to focus on making money, and they need to stay out of politics, period. That's
ESG
what I think we need to do.
Refer to it. All right, I want to talk about the trans thing, because we spent some time on that tonight, which we hadn't done before. And I'm still unclear, because I too have looked at your history on this, and I still don't know whether you are in favor of a ban on these medical procedures for minors, or you're not in favor.
Very clear. I am in favor of a ban. I do not think any medical procedure should be done to a child before the age of 18. That's why I said, I've been on record saying if you can't get a tattoo till 18, you certainly don't have any sort of gender transformation during that time. Even if your parents give you permission, I don't think it's okay, because kids, we know kids going through puberty can be confused. They get a lot of different thoughts through their heads. That is not the time to be making a decision like that. I'm adamantly opposed to any sort
You're saying that today.
Body changing anything until the age of 18.
How about the puberty blockers into cross-sex hormones?
None of that should happen until the age of 18. I'm on record saying that. I've always said that. I mean, you know, Ron kept saying that I hadn't done it, but Ron has been lying this entire time. I mean, he's got spending millions of dollars on commercials on TV, and everybody from CNN to Newsmax has said that his ads are false.
On this subject, I confess, I myself and my researchers looked very hard because I wanted to make sure I knew everybody's position. By the way, I was right about what I said to Governor Christie, too. And what I found you saying was, you probably saw yesterday, there was a viral clip of you, which we had seen.
But they clipped, but they took a small
I've seen the
part
whole
of it.
interview. It was 6 months ago. It was given to CBS this morning, and you were asked if a 12-year-old girl wants to become a boy, what medical procedures, what medical care should be available, or do you believe the law should get involved? You said, I don't believe the law should get involved. There's that. But then I saw your spokesperson gave a statement to the Daily Caller saying she's against the medicalization of the minors. So I too saw a bit of a split. Why did you say that to CBS?
So I don't want government involved in anything related to what happens between parents and children, but I don't want any procedures for kids. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make perfect sense.
That's a law saying you can't
What about
change a
drugs?
child until the age of 18.
What about
But
drugs?
parents and kids
What
can
about
decide how
drugs?
best to deal with that. That
What about
video
drugs?
that was going viral
What
that
about
talked about, I was
blockers?
talking about suicides.
What about
And so they took
blockers?
the suicides and they tried to make it something else.
What about
I'm very
blockers?
clear on this. I want parents to have as many rights. When Chris was
What
talking
about
about parents
blockers?
having rights, they do have rights. I want them to have rights.
Oh my God.
But that's not
You're the
government
same
saying parents
disaster.
can't
You're the
fight.
same freaking
That's us
disaster.
just saying, for a law, you can do whatever you want
so
when you're
surgery
18.
you have a problem
But
with,
we're
not
not going to have you
blockers.
do that before then, because I don't think that's in the best interest
While
of
we're
the
on this
child.
subject, let me ask you another question that
Ask about blockers, Megan. Ask about blockers.
What do you think we should do about the fact? And I know
Yeah,
you're
that's
good on the
probably
girls'
true. She
sports
probably
and all.
does
I've heard
have-
you many times on that. So I don't
Probably
want
does
to
have
retread
stock
it. But
in Lupron.
what about the fact that the term woman is being eroded? I mean, it's being erased in American society.
This is infuriating.
This is a lab question that she's trying to give her because she's the one who came out. And I'm so tired of this. This is leftist identity politics that Megan's engaging in here. Good evening, brothers. Saw a few clips. We'll watch your full show tomorrow. Congrats on the engagement party. Thank you. Term limits still a bad idea, regardless of war chest. What you're doing is great service. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you kindly. Matt says within GOP, 3/4 are known and unwanted quantities. Only knock on Vivek is that he might not be for real. Trump can give him 4 years to prove it as VP. VPs don't do very much, though. I mean, did we really know how terrible Pence was until January 6th? Because I don't think we did. I don't think any of us recognized how terrible he was. Because what did they do, VPs already?
Infuriating to me, because the idea that what was that? I forgot which school it was.
But I will
they
say this.
Gave the
I
definition
will
of
say
a
this.
woman.
Just the passage of time will give us more exposure to him for a longer period of time. So he's much more of a known quantity 4 years from now than he is today. So, no matter what position he's in. Let's hear from this crazed warbird.
And it was a non-man. And I was sick to my stomach. That's why I always say strong girls become strong women become strong leaders. That doesn't happen if biological boys are playing in their sports. That doesn't happen if you go and make
Oh yeah,
a
she
woman
called
feel
that
any
she
more
called that the biggest issue confronting women today. Really? That's the biggest issue? Not the fact that like our economy is shooting through the roof because the women don't have to deal with that. Don't they have to handle paying for groceries just like men? I'm so tired of trying to split things down. It's like, what are women issues? What the hell does that mean? Women issues. I'm tired of that. That's such leftist, stupid, neocon perspective. Biggest issues facing women today. Strong. Stop with this whole we need to promote women. Women are fine. Women are fine. You want to know how we know women are fine? There were more women in college than men. There was a panel of 3 women. No men. 3 women. I'm so tired of everyone saying we need to worry about women. We need to worry about humans. Stop trying to find ways to break us apart. The trans issue is not a female issue. It's not a women's issue. It's a human issue. And it's much less about these women being harmed than these kids who are being infected with ridiculous perspectives and being sold a bill of goods that's completely empty. That's what the problem is. It's not about like, oh, this is hurting women's sports. Boo-hoo on women's sports. Who the hell cares? No one cares. That's not the biggest issue facing women. I'm gonna tell you something. If you're some girl playing college volleyball, okay, that's not the most important thing in your life either, even to her, much less the rest of womankind. What a ridiculous perspective that is. That's such a stupid leftist perspective of like, let's break. You're doing what they do. You're breaking women down to like their genitalia. That's what's determining what's the utmost important to them. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. It's not my reproductive organs that determine what's most important to me. Does it affect the nature of the person that you are? 1,000%. Does it affect what type of brain and how you think and approach things? 1,000%. Does that mean that that's the most important issues to you? It's like, oh, what are issues facing men today? Stop it. Let's talk about people. The only time we should be talking about gender at all is when we're talking about how sick it is that the left is encouraging people to start pretending that their gender doesn't matter. When we're talking about political issues, when we're talking about what issues are facing people, and you start saying, oh, it's a fixate on how we can help prop women up. Women are doing fine. Fortunately, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. They don't need you to pat them on the head and give them you're patronizing, oh, let's worry about women issues. So patronizing, disgusting. Everything about this woman makes me sick.
Inferior or not,
Deep State Megyn did ask Deep State Haley about drugs, and she said no. Yeah, well, she seemed to. She said it no now. So what the hell did she mean then? I mean, I'm not upset with UQ. I'm simply saying I understand that it's like, which side of her mouth is she talking out of?
who she is, and the idea that they're trying to erase us. That's my biggest thing. I think they're trying to erase women by now saying
it's not that they're trying to erase women. They're trying to erase gender altogether. It's not like they're out to erase women. They're out to basically say that there's no limitation on the nature of changes that we as that humankind can inflict on other humans. It's a rejection of God more than it's a rejection of women. Basically saying, oh yeah, everyone's the same. We're all the same. We're all just like plastic cones. We're all just carbon copies of each other. Doesn't matter what your gender is. There's no difference between Brad Pitt and Megyn Kelly. They're the same person.
oh, but biological boys should do that. I mean, it's absurd, and we can't have that happen.
The crack team telling me it was Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So the other thing is immigration. I thought it was an interesting question because you did not say I'm going to deport all of the people who are here illegally tonight. You said the ones who came recently under Joe Biden, that's one thing, 7 or 8 million. But you know that there's a hardcore wing of the Republican Party who are like, what about the rest of them? All of them need to go.
Right? And we have to find them first. So the first thing we need to do is we've got to figure out where everybody is, look at what their status is. And that's why I say it would be easy to say, oh, send them all back. We don't know where they are. That's the reality. We know.
But are you saying if we find them, they're all going? Like even the ones who are working and paying taxes? Because you seem to be saying the opposite.
If they've been here 20 years and they've been paying taxes and they've had a job and they've been citizens, I think we need to create categories of how we're going to do this. There is no simple answer. And so if somebody's been here 20 years and they've done everything right, I think we put them in one category. If they have come over and they're sitting there feeding off the system, or they're part of these 8-9 million that came under Biden, they got to go back. The point of all of that is don't incentivize more to come. The only way you don't incentivize more to come is to deport, is to make sure they don't jump the line and they know that there's going to be a price to pay.
Another question on foreign policy. I asked this question of Desantis, but I'd love to hear your answer too. If China does invade Taiwan, and I know deterrence, I get it, but if they do, are we going to send American troops?
This is the thing. If we say that we're going to do it, we have to follow through with it. And so the best way to deal with China, and this is what I saw at the United Nations, is let them know there will be hell to pay. That's how you say it.
They're kind of trying to stay strategically ambiguous.
It's more about, but it's leveraging us, right? So when you say there's going to be hell to pay, it shouldn't just be words. Taiwan should be getting equipment, ammunition, everything they can so that China sees it. This is action that we're actually arming them right now. We're actually giving them everything that they need.
March us into war, Nikki. March us into war.
China know we're serious is if we stick with Ukraine, we stick with Israel. Because if they see us just getting tired and leaving.
We are tired, though.
They're moving in.
You look at those polls of Republican voters on Ukraine, they're not with you.
Listen, and this war would have been over if Biden would have given them what they needed in the first place.
Never.
This war never
You
should have
stupid.
happened if Biden would have dealt with it.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. There aren't even enough troops in Ukraine. to fight off Russia. Idiot. She's the foreign policy expert. Oh, because she sat down with Russia.
When Russia surrounded Ukraine for that whole year.
I think most voters believe that.
We wouldn't have had the fall in
I think most
Afghanistan.
Republicans would give you that, but they're fed
No,
up.
no, 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 no. Never had any chance from day one. It was a stupid thought in the first place.
They're fed up.
I totally agree, and we need to end it. And there's a way that you can end Ukraine. The way you end Ukraine is if you went and said to Ukraine, we will invite you into NATO. It's a process. It doesn't happen quickly. We will invite you into NATO. Doesn't require anything more of the U.S. under those laws. What would happen is Putin would know Russia's never invaded a NATO country. They've invaded Georgia, Moldova, and now Ukraine. They've never invaded a NATO country.
Which is why we should know that they would never
do
go into Poland.
Invitation. Putin would know he needs to come up with an exit strategy. Zelensky would know he can go back and say, we got the invitation.
But then the simpler method here would have been to work something out in sorting out this whole Ukrainian mess before they marched in there. But that's not how Warhawk Haley thinks. That's not how hawkish Haley thinks. Not at all.
And then
if Putin does continue fighting with Ukraine and they come in NATO, then we have to fight. We have to get involved.
I mean, the Ukrainians and Israelis, they don't want American troops. They want to win this on their own. They want to win their countries on their own.
How? How? Yeah, I want to be a billionaire on my own also. It's sort of, it's so, it's like you're not living in reality.
I don't think we should ever give cash to any country, because you can't.
And not troops.
Not troops. I don't think we need to do that. I think, look, my husband's a combat veteran. I don't want him fighting any more wars than he has to.
All right, last question on that front, because I worked with a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old boys in advance.
This is all of a sudden, she spent 4 debates, screaming about how we have to go marching, and all of a sudden now, no money, no troops. What the hell are you talking about then? What were you talking about for the last 4 debates? I have no idea where she stands. You know, Q Revere. You're saying that she did say this. It's like, it depends on which moment she's talking. We have no idea who Nikki Haley is. Because she's not hawkish Haley saying send our money and our troops. I don't know what the hell she's talking about. What is she talking about? Can any of you figure out what she's been saying for 4 debates now? If all of a sudden she just now says, oh, no money, no troops. Then what the hell did you mean? Nobody knows what the hell she stands for. She doesn't know what the hell she stands for, because it depends on what moment in an interview you're asking her.
Debate, and I asked them, what would you like to ask the candidates? And for you, they're the young guys. I actually went back and checked. I did not realize once we let women into combat roles, we kept the draft still limited to just men. And I have to say, I'm kind of relieved. I don't know. It just makes me scared to think of my 12-year-old, daughter when she gets to that age. Maybe it's sexist, but in any event, they want to know under what circumstances you would implement a draft.
I don't think we need to go back to a draft. I think what we do need to do is focus on recruitment. Recruitment is down 25%. Why is it down? Interestingly enough, we get 80% of our recruits from military families. For the first time, military families are telling their kids, don't do it. It's unheard of. But if you look at how we treat our veterans, you wouldn't be surprised. If you look at the fact that they're teaching gender pronoun, that they're making our military men and women take gender pronoun classes,
that's
you
absurd.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But we did look at the Army survey that said only 5% say it's wokeness, the reason they're not joining. They say, kind of amazingly, because I know you're a military family, the number one reason they're not joining is fear of death. And the second one is a fear of post-traumatic stress disorder, like stress. They're afraid of stress. And the third is they don't want to miss their friends and family. Which, I mean, I just think, like, as a where are the old grizzled military people?
The patriots, right? The people. My husband joined after 9/11. It was that love of country. It's that sacrifice.
Your friends and family.
First of all, they don't think government's going to have their backs.
This is what I'm saying. She goes back and forth every 10 minutes. She said they've never historically gone into a NATO country, but all of a sudden now Poland's next. Why would anyone come to that conclusion? She's so full of crap. She's so full of hot garbage. She's just, nothing she says has any ring of truth to it.
It's a real thing. The second thing is 1 in 3 veterans suffers from PTSD or thoughts of suicide. We lose 22 heroes a day. There's something to that.
And we're not doing anything.
And we're not doing near enough to help in the transition or to make sure they have telehealth with mental health care. We're not giving them good health care all the way. So why does anybody see the need? But I want to bring back love of country. I want us to go back to our national purpose. People should be proud of America so much so like the Israelis are, where they want to fight for their freedoms, where the Ukrainians are, they want to fight for their freedoms. We want people to love our
so that's
country.
that's why she wants to send Americans into war so we fight for our freedoms. Crazy woman.
But our country's in chaos, and we've got to get out of this chaos.
Yeah,
oh my God! And then people wonder why she's labeled a fascist. You know why she's labeled a fascist? Because this is the same type of thinking that encouraged Adolf to run. Like, oh, well, unify by going to war with everyone else. And I'm not saying she's Adolf. She's not. I hate when people. I think it's lazy when people make a comparison. I'm simply saying it's birthed from the same type of mindset. It does work. It does work. It's simply like it's insanity, but it works. Tell me how it's any different. It's not simply Adolf, by the way. I mean, historically, Prussia, if you go back hundreds of years, they were constantly at war. It works. It works. That's what she's embracing. Oh, let's all love America. We'll just go to war. All Americans will say, oh, we got to support ourselves.
The more patriotism you feel, the more likely you are to sign up for the military, to want to defend.
Exactly right.
It's like this downward spiral. So nice to have you here.
Great to be with you.
Great
Thank
to see
you so
Ambassador.
much. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
I wonder if Megyn's gonna have to wipe the blood off her hands now after she's like done shaking Hawk Haley's hand.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. I
Yeah, those talons on Nikki Haley. My God.
hope you're enjoying the show. I am. It's great to see these candidates here in person after being with them on the debate stage. Back with me now, Emily Jashinsky.
Yeah, I don't want to hear from these idiots. Did they get Desantis up there? Let's see if they have Desantis. It doesn't seem like they got Desantis. I was just looking at clips. I need to see them looking at clips because I'm tired of hearing from those neocons. Oh, my God. Okay. Rivka J Gamer says Messianic Jew is designed to make fun of people who say we're a cult. I don't think so, but I can understand why people would be offended. You're talking about the orange Jesus thing that I put in a poll. And CLS says, here, Joe, little something. Well, that's very thoughtful. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you indeed. All right. In fact, I'm going to give you one of these. Double up on those. Okay. I think I'm going to start winding down now. It's time for me to start winding on down. Coming to the end of another brilliant show. I'm going to rate my work in today as scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to say 8.5. 8.5. Not 10. Very solid. 8.5 for me is like 12 for other people though. So that's how I'm rating my work today. Yeah, 8.5. Okay. It's important to do self-assessment sometimes. It's very, very important. It's very important. I'm like, yeah, I can do better. I think I can do a little better. There's room for improvement, but it was pretty solid. Pretty solid day all around. Tomorrow evening, I will be back here with you at 10 p.m. I'm probably going to do a locals at some point tomorrow also because I'm feeling a hunger for some locals. That's what I'm thinking. I'm also thinking I should be getting back to the courthouse soon. I wonder what's going on with my whole application to become a journalist in New York. I did submit that request like a month ago. I think we're getting close to that month. And they're supposed to decide within 30 days. And I think I met all the qualifications. So I should be a journalist. Yay, me a journalist. Oh, look at me, Mom. All right. I'm wrapping up my stream here. There's a couple of things I need to remind you as I'm wrapping up this stream. And that is, goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com. Good Logic. LAWGIC.locals.com. And I hope to see you tomorrow. So remember, make sure that you stay happy and eat the bugs. As we're coming in. No surprises. No surprises. No surprises. Coming for a landing. I say to all my friends, I thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Till then, Godspeed.